Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio from Boise, Idaho. This is your host, Adam Graham. I got a comment, email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. You can also become a fan of the show on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. Well, we're going to get started with today's show in just a second. Before we do, I want to remind you to try out Audible. Audible allows you to listen to a wide variety of different audiobooks, be they classics or the latest bestseller that'll help you improve in your business. Wide selection, including a lot of old-time radio shows, as well as some newer radio dramatizations. You can try the Audible service out for free for 2 weeks and get an audiobook for free. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio to start your free trial. Well, we're going to get into today's episode of Box 13, Sealed Instructions.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of Star Times. I have a proposition for you. One that will bring you $10,000 if you go through with it. But you've got to make up your mind fast. I'm at 658 Carson Street. I won't be there after tomorrow evening. So, if you're interested, come to see me.
If you are interested, come to see me. Bring this letter to identify yourself and come to flat number 6. Remember, you've got to hurry. That was it. No signature to the letter. Just that sense of urgency that made me feel as though the writer were afraid. He was. And later, I was. Now back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's latest adventure, Sealed Instructions. Well, Susie, what do you make of it?
He's in an awful hurry, Mr. Holliday.
That he is. And he mentions $10,000.
Uh-huh.
And that, as they say in books, is a lot of gold watches.
He doesn't even sign his name. I bet he's an income tax invasion.
What?
He's an income tax evasion?
Susie, evader.
Well, one or the other. He's got $10,000.
Uh-huh. Okay, Susie, it looks like the best letter of the bunch for this week. So my address for the next hour or so will be 658 Carson Street. Carson Street ran through one of those neighborhoods where the houses sat one on top of the other. Crowded, dirty, and teeming with people, trucks, and more people. I found number 658, knocked on the door of flat number 6.
Yes? Who is it? Who is it?
Box 13.
Oh, you got the letter with you?
Yes, I've got it.
Hey, put it under the door.
Okay. Here it comes.
Stand under that light across the hall so I can see you. All right. Come on in. Hurry. Sit down. No. Keep away from the window.
The shade's down. No one can see you.
Keep away from it.
You've got enough bolts and chains on that door to hold off a tribe of Indians.
I know what I'm doing. Now, let me get a good look at you.
In the yellow light that came from the one globe dangling from the ceiling, the man looked at me. And I looked at him. He was about 50. His face was drawn and pinched. His hands shook and his eyes, squinty and sharp, slid over me. I didn't like him. Then he seemed to be satisfied and sat down on a chair opposite me.
So, you're after adventure, eh?
That's right.
Did you see anyone follow you here?
Not that I know of. Why? Expecting someone else?
I'm always expecting someone. No, I'm not.
What do you want with me?
Are you free to go anywhere?
That's what my ad says. We'll go any place, do anything. I usually do.
Would you be willing to go as far as the Philippine Islands?
It's a man-sized errand.
Would you go? That's all I want to know. Would you go?
Well, that all depends on what I've got to do. If there's anything crooked, the answer is no.
There's nothing crooked. I want you to go there and bring back something that belongs to me. Something I've got to have.
What's stopping you from going yourself?
Look at me. I'm sick.
Oh, it could be. But you're sure there's no other reason?
What do you mean?
Well, the bolts and the locks on the door. That fact that you said in your letter you wouldn't be at this address after tonight. The shades drawn. You were afraid I was followed.
So?
So, 2 and 2 are 4. And the 4 in this case comes out to... You're afraid to show your face.
I have enemies.
The ordinary kind? Or the kind that would kill you?
They kill me.
I see. Oh, what's your name?
You have to know that?
It's a little peculiarity of mine. I like to know the people I'm dealing with.
My name is Krell. Joseph Krell. Does it mean anything to you?
No more than mine would mean to you. Holiday. Dan Holiday.
There's $10,000 in this for you.
Well, I don't care about that.
Well, what?
Oh, the money doesn't interest me.
Doesn't it? Money doesn't...
I must have said something very funny.
You did, Holiday. You did. You say $10,000 doesn't mean anything to you.
Well, no, it doesn't. I'd better explain. You see, I'm a writer. The stories I get in response to that Box 13 ad you answered, well, they pay me amply for my efforts.
There's one born every minute. But will you go?
And do what?
I'll give you the name of a man whom you're to contact in Manila. That's all you have to know now.
Mm-hmm. Then what happens?
That will take care of itself.
What do you want me to bring back?
I told you something that belongs to me. Something I've got to have. Something that means life or death to me.
That important, huh?
We're wasting time. Will you do it? It's adventure, and when you get back, I'll give you $10,000. Do anything you want with it. I don't care. But bring me what I want.
When do I have to leave?
As soon as you can.
Oh, one more question.
What?
Where are you going to get the $10,000? Well?
I'll have it when you get back.
I see. Do I come here?
No, I won't be here. I've got to keep moving because he...
He?
Never mind. When you get back, put another ad below the one for Box 13. Just see you back. I'll get in touch with you.
And the name of the man I'm to meet in Manila?
You'll find him at the address on this slip of paper. He's expecting someone from me. And, here, take this envelope. Don't open it until you get in touch with the man.
Sealed instructions, huh?
Yes. And Holiday, take good care of that envelope. Hide it. If he knew you were carrying it, he might kill you.
And with that little gem as a bon voyage from Krell, I left him. When I got home, I took the envelope he'd given me and had it sewn into the lining of my jacket. 4 days later, I was in Manila, after a nice, pleasant trip on the plane. I went to a hotel and registered. Later that evening, I took a cab to the address of Krell's man. It was a tiny, ramshackle place in a street that was so narrow the cab couldn't get through. So I had to get out and walk. And right there is where I should have said quits to the whole thing. That old familiar feeling began tingling my spine. As usual, foolishly, I paid no attention to it. I got to the house. There was no answer. I tried the door. It was pitch black inside. I closed the door behind me. I stood there for a couple of seconds trying to see through the blackness when...
Stand right where you are.
Who's that?
Just stay where you are.
The light went on, and facing me was a man with a gun. And from where I stood, the muzzle was neatly in line with my third rib. The man looked at me for a moment, then...
Turn around. Back to me.
What's the idea?
I don't know yet, but we'll see. Okay, face me.
Who are you?
Never mind that. Who are you?
Dan Holliday.
Doesn't mean a thing.
Lieutenant, he's... Oh?
Yeah, we got company, Sergeant.
So I see.
Sergeant. What is this?
Sit down.
Look, I came here to see someone.
Uh-huh. What's the name of the person you came to see?
I don't know.
If you don't know this man, why did you come here? Come on, talk.
I don't see any reason why I should.
Would it give you a reason if I told you we're police?
I don't know.
You don't know much, do you? Why did you come to see this man you don't know?
On business.
What kind?
I was sent here.
By whom?
A man named Joseph Krell.
Krell? Well.
Evidently, that explains a lot of things, doesn't it?
It could and it couldn't. You say your name is Holliday?
That's right.
All right, Mr. Holliday. Step over to this other room with me. Come on. Open the door, Sergeant.
See, Lieutenant.
Go ahead in, Holliday.
Oh, do you have to keep that gun on me?
It's better that way. Now, want to see your man?
Yeah.
All right, look on the floor, behind the bed. Now you've seen him.
Who killed him?
We'd like to know that, too.
You didn't think I did?
Maybe you'd like to talk now. Tell us why you came here, why you had to see Carlos.
Carlos?
Yeah, the name of the deceased.
All right, Lieutenant...
Lieutenant Keith, Manila Police. This is Sergeant Enrique Cotis.
Okay, I was sent here by Joseph Krell. I was to see this Carlos.
Why?
I don't know. I was to give him an envelope.
Where is it?
At the hotel.
And we'll find out about that later. Now, this Krell, why did he send you?
He couldn't come himself. But whatever it was he wanted me to bring back, he said it meant life and death to him. He offered me $10,000 to get it for him.
Oh. What was in the envelope?
I don't know.
Is that your stock answer?
Now, look, I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe it, check with the police in the States. Verify my identity.
We will. But first, let's get something straight.
Well, that would be a pleasure.
Krell sent you for something that was worth $10,000 to him. Did anyone else know about it?
Well, hardly.
Why hardly?
Because Krell said I might be killed.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't talk to anyone on the plane about it?
No.
Okay, we'll go back to your hotel and check on a few things. Sergeant?
See, Lieutenant.
Stay here. No one in or out. Meet me at headquarters as soon as you can get away.
See.
Now, Holliday, we'll see how much trouble you're really in.
On the way back to my hotel, Keith didn't say much. Neither did I. But I was doing a lot of thinking, and suddenly it hit me. Something Keith had asked me, something he had no right to ask, and something he couldn't have asked unless... I looked at him. He was smiling to himself. Okay, I had to take a chance. Oh, by the way, Lieutenant.
What?
That building over there.
Where?
Just to your right. Look out the window.
What building are you talking about?
Driver, stop the cab.
What is it? What's the matter? Oh,
My friend, he met with an accident.
he's hurt. We should maybe go to a doctor.
No, I don't think so. But when he comes to, ask him a question for me, will you?
Question, but
Yeah, just ask him how he knew I came to Manila on a plane.
And now back to Sealed Instructions, another Box 13 adventure starring Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
So there I was, out in the middle of a big puzzle and a murder. Sure, Keith had killed Carlos to keep me from getting to him. Keith must have followed me from the States. Oh, it was smart of him not to play his cards on the plane or as soon as I got to Manila. He waited until I tried to contact Carlos, Then he planned to get the envelope away from me without any more fuss or bother. Now, I had to get back to the hotel and get that envelope before Keith came to. Because when he did, he was going to be very, very nasty. So back at the hotel, I had a bellhop go to my room and bring down the jacket.
Is this the right one, Mr. Holliday?
Oh, yeah, that's the one. Here you are.
Oh, thank you, sir. Will that be all?
Yes, sir. Uh-oh. Oh, wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Come here behind this pillar.
Something wrong, sir?
Yeah, there is. Look over at that entrance. Do you see that big man standing there? White hat, gray suit?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to meet him.
Oh, I see.
Look, you go through the lobby paging me. He'll follow you to see where I am. Lead him a merry chase, got it?
I got it, Mr. Holliday.
Okay, get going.
Paging Mr. Holliday. Mr. Dan Holliday. Paging
Well, the
Mr.
bellhop
Holliday.
did it up good.
Mr. Dan
And
Holliday,
Keith fell for the
please.
gag and followed the bellhop,
Mr.
just far
Holliday.
enough behind him so that he could surprise me,
Dan
if he saw me.
Holliday, please.
But he didn't. I ducked out of the entrance and took a cab to police headquarters. There,
Let me get this straight, Mr. Holliday. You say this Keith pretended to be an officer?
that's right, Lieutenant Marinos.
But why?
So he could get this envelope away from me. He'd already killed once to get it. But maybe he thought killing me would attract too much attention.
But this envelope, where is it and what is in it?
We're going to see that right away. Oh, have you got a knife?
Yes. Here.
Oh, thanks. Well, this was a good jacket. Here it is.
Open it.
Sure. Well, what's this?
May I see it?
Here you are.
This is very curious, Mr. Holliday. It looks like a map.
It's half a map, Lieutenant Marinos. Carlos had the other half.
Of course. But a map of what? And to what?
To whatever Krell wanted.
Krell?
Yeah, that's the name. Why?
You did not mention his name before. Why not?
Well, I didn't think it was important.
To the Filipinos, it is very important.
I don't get it. Why?
During the Japanese occupation of the islands, Joseph Krell was a collaborator.
Oh, no wonder he didn't dare come back. But the rest of this business, how does it fit in?
I do not know as yet. However, I think I have an idea, Mr. Holliday.
Yes, what's that?
Before the war, before the Japanese invasion, Krell was a gambler. It was known that he ran a gambling house with a partner.
Partner? Keith?
That could be, although Keith was not his name then.
So, what's the rest of your idea?
The partner fled when the Japanese came. Krell did not. Now, I think the partner would like to find Krell. Mr. Holliday, we must find the other half of this map.
Well, Keith has it.
I know that.
Then find Keith.
That will be much easier said than done. Unless
Lieutenant?
Unless you help, Mr. Holliday. I do not think that Keith will suspect that you have come to the police.
He followed me from the States. He must think I'm in with Krell. If he thinks that, then he'd think I wouldn't dare go to the police.
Exactly. So?
Oh, I see. You want to tie me out as live bait, is that it?
It is the only way to get him. Because he will come after this half of the map.
Uh-huh.
Of course, you can refuse. And I do not say that I will blame you.
No, I guess not. But, well, you've got yourself a piece of live bait. And I hope it stays that way. It was the only way to get Keith. Besides, I was very curious as to what that map meant. And why getting something meant life and death to Joseph Krell. So I checked out of the hotel, and with one of Lieutenant Marino's men following at a distance, I took a room on the other side of town and waited. An hour passed. 2. Then, when it was beginning to look as though our Mr. Keith was smarter than we'd figured... Come in. Well, hello.
Mr. Holliday, you've given me a lot of trouble.
You don't want an apology, do you?
No. All I want's the other half of that map.
Oh, sure. You knock on the door, I say, come in, give you the map, and that's that. Very simple.
Yeah, very simple and very smart.
Mm-hmm. But you don't think I'd have the map on me, do you?
Maybe not, but you know where to get it. Let's go.
Oh, wait a minute.
What for?
Why don't we make a deal?
What kind?
Well, neither half of the map is any good without the other. And I'm sure you haven't got yours with you.
Oh, but I have.
I see. Was it very hard getting it from Carlos?
Oh, not very. No harder than it will be to get the half you got.
Oh, look, we can still make a deal, Keith. Or whatever your name is.
Keith will do.
Okay. How about it?
Maybe you're smart at that. Okay, let's go. After you, Holiday, and don't forget this. It's loaded.
You make it easy to remember.
Yeah, I can make it very easy to forget by pulling the trigger. No, the back way, Holiday. The back way.
Back way?
Holiday, how dumb do you think I am? Or how smart do you think you are? You forgot all about Enrique, didn't you?
Oh, the sergeant.
Yeah. Here, this door. You see, Enrique followed us away from Carlos' place. He knew you slugged me in the cab.
Enrique seems to have done all right.
Just perfect. Get in this car. Go ahead, Enrique. Looking for your cop friends, Holiday?
Cops?
Yeah. You see, when you pulled that bellhop trick at the hotel, Enrique was outside. He followed you, saw you go to the police. It's too bad, Holiday, but there are no police.
Oh, I see. Enrique took care of him, is that it?
Enrique has been very busy. Now, let's have that half you got.
I told you I haven't got it.
Quit stalling. It was to be bait for me, wasn't it? You and Marinos were so sure you'd have me, you didn't bother to leave the half at headquarters. Let's have it now.
Keith looked at me. Sure, he knew he held all the aces, and he held the gun right at my head. Well, there was nothing to do but drag out my half of the map and give it to him. He looked at it, held it against his half. They matched.
All right, Holiday, this is the end of the line. You get off here.
What do you mean?
What do you think? Take the next turn right, Enrique, and slow down a little. Mr. Holiday is leaving us. For good.
Keith meant it. Enrique started to take the next turn to the right, but I had a different idea. I grabbed the handle of the door, twisted it hard, and jumped. Took a full fall on my shoulder. Rolled over into the ditch on the side of the road. Keith jumped out of the car, started toward me, shooting as he came. And then...
You are not hurt, Mr. Holliday?
No, I'm not, Lieutenant.
Oh, I am glad.
We are a majority of two, Lieutenant Marinos. But Keith...
He is taken care of.
Whew. How did you get here?
By putting two strings to my bow, Mr. Holliday. The one man I had follow you was, how shall we say, a decoy?
Well, let's say it and be very happy. Is he all right?
Oh, a little lump on his head, but all right.
You know, this was very close.
Oh, yes, I am very sorry, Mr. Holliday, but I did not expect Mr. Keith to have a car. However, all is well that ends well, hmm?
Yeah, sure. Now, how about that map?
Come, we will see about that now.
With the two halves of the map, we went to work. Krell had hidden something in the hills back of Manila. Hidden it before the Japanese invasion. 3 hours later, Lieutenant Marinos and I sat on a box and watched his men digging into the earth. And Marinos talked.
You see, this Carlos was Krell's servant. When Krell left the Philippine Islands, he left half the map.
Mm-hmm. In case he was caught, a half map would do no one any good.
That is right. Keith was Krell's partner. He left. Krell stayed to become a collaborator.
Playing two games at once. The Japs won, he'd been with them. The Allies won. Well, he'd have what he hid here.
Exactly.
Lieutenant Marinos, we have found it. Please.
Oh, a box, an iron box.
Sergeant, break the lock.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Holliday, you may have the honor of opening it.
Oh, thanks. I lifted the lid and unwrapped a large package done up in waterproofed oiled silk.
It is quite a lot of money, yes?
Quite a lot of money.
Perhaps $500,000, Mr. Holliday.
From the looks of it, yes.
And it all belongs to Mr. Krell, a man who betrayed my people and his country. We shall be happy to hold it in trust for him until he cares to come and claim it.
Yeah, I think I'll take him back something else, though.
Something else? What?
That.
What?
That over there.
Mr. Holliday, you are a poet.
I left Manila the next day with Lieutenant Marino saying goodbye. With me was the iron box I'd come across the ocean to get. But in it was something a great deal different from what Krell expected. Back in the States, I put an ad below my Box 13 ad. I waited, and then...
Here it is, Mr. Holliday, right below the Box 13 ad. It says, Holliday, come to 1256 Chickering Place, K.
That's it, Susie.
But why don't they arrest Mr. Krell?
Arrest? Huh. I think they've got something much better, Susie. Much better.
Who is it?
Holiday. Let me in.
Have you got it? Did you get it?
Yes, here it is.
Oh, that's it. Yes, that's it, Holiday. I've waited so long for this. So very long.
I know you have, Krell. And I'm very anxious to see what you think about it.
You didn't open it. The lock looks like it was opened.
Why don't you look inside, Krell?
Yes, I've saved this key.
Oh, your ex-partner is dead.
Oh.
Now you won't have to worry about him killing you for double-crossing him.
Good. I pay you well, Holiday. I pay you well.
With what?
With this. With this.
Surprised?
It's gone. Unless you took it.
But I brought you something in place of the money, Krell. The flag of the new Philippine Republic. The flag of a people you betrayed.
I'll kill you.
You're very sick, aren't you, Krell? Very sick. You'd never live to stand trial, but you could have lived well on all that money.
Please. Please give it to me.
Certainly, Krell. Oh, here's the other half of the map, which is why you wrote to me originally. I've not double-crossed you. You can have your treasure anytime, Krell.
Where?
Anytime you want to claim it.
Where is it?
In Manila. And anytime you want to go back and claim it. I think the people there will be very glad to see you.
$500,000. Wow. Who does it belong to, Mr. Holliday?
To Mr. Krell. But I don't think he'll ever claim it.
Gee. But what about him? Where'll he go? Well, what'll he do?
I don't know, Susie. And I don't think I really care about a man who would double-cross his own country.
Well, anyway, it was exciting for you. You know, I wish I could take a plane trip like that sometime.
A plane... Good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with this week's original story written by Charles Gurnett. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. Part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker. Production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. You know, the first clue that keyed him into the fact that Keith wasn't really a police officer is one that we would perhaps take for granted today. Keith knew that he had come into Manila by airplane, which just was not as common in 1947 as it is today. Most of the time, if people are going to take a boat somewhere, it's a bit of a pleasure cruise and a lark rather than coming in by plane. Still, I have to imagine that was kind of a dangerous guess. But it worked out okay for Dan. Also, you get another one of these post-World War II sense of anger and frustration with those who collaborated with the enemy in time of war. And you see that coming up time and time again in these shows. All right, well, we got a few quick comments, and then we'll wrap it up. Still enjoying the shows. Keep up the good work. And it says, love these old radio detectives. I'd be hard-pressed to pick a favorite. Sherlock Holmes, Johnny Dollar, Sam Spade, Nero Wolfe. I love them. Okay. I can do without Richard Diamond singing. Well, it'd be better than me singing. But anyway, he says, but I sure appreciate that these are available on podcast, and Great Detectives is the best quality I've found. Well, thank you so much. It's much appreciated. And then we also have on Podcast Alley, simple, still enjoying the shows, keep up the good work. Well, I appreciate all the positive comments, and before we get started with today's show, I want to encourage you, if you've got a need for web hosting, or you just like to get, say, another domain that you can use for a redirect, there's a great site that I use, 1&1. That is our web host, the world's #1 web host with 9 million subscribers. Go to hosting.greatdetectives.net or go to greatdetectives.net. Click on the 1&1 link. Special offers over there this month include a .com domain free for a year, and several web hosting packages that come with 3 months free. So go to hosting.greatdetectives.net to learn more. Now let's get into today's episode of Jeff Regan. This one is called The Guy from Gower Gulch.
My name's Regan. I get 10 a day in expenses from a detective bureau run by a guy named Anthony J. Lyon. They call me the Lion's Eye.
With Jack Webb as Jeff Regan, the Lion's Eye, stand by for hard-boiled action and mystery and thrilling adventure in tonight's story of the guy from Gower Gulch.
It's a gray building, about the color of moldy bread. It's an apartment house in the middle of Hollywood, and it figures that the guy who built it quit voting when they named the street it sits on, Taft Avenue. My place is furnished with war surplus from the Spanish-American War. Well, it's got a hat rack, and that's where I live, number 308. In back, where you get a view and some fresh air from the alley. One's about as bad as the other. But I got it fixed up kind of nice. Hot plates, coffee pot, an autographed picture of Sally Rand that somebody left there. Only mistake I made was putting in a telephone. It spoils a lot of things.
Regan, Mr. Lyon, wake up. We got a job.
Why don't you sleep at night?
Lucky for you, I got insomnia. We go broke.
Try Ovaltine. What kind of a job?
How should I know? Get your clothes on.
What are you doing, reading the want ads?
I got a note from a client.
You mean you got money?
$100 is all. Says he'll match it if we run him an errand.
Where to? Santa Ana Canyon?
He'll tell you.
You know, if you got morals like a cash register, can he write his name?
Davy Crockett. He's 50 years old.
Well, he's a little old for cowboys and Indians, isn't he?
That's his name, Davy Crockett.
Well, when's the wagon train pull out?
Regan, I don't know how I stand for you. Get over there.
Get where?
Listen, a guy works pretty hard. Building up a business like I have takes a lot out of him.
You got plenty on tap.
I just want you to understand, that's all. Money doesn't grow on trees. Now, sometimes you gotta play your hunches.
Like George Gallup.
This time I got a feeling the guy's okay. He writes like a gentleman, Regan. I want you to treat him like one.
Well, where do I find him?
He's in a location that can give us a lot of business.
Where?
The city jail.
Yeah, that's the Lion. Born under the sign of the dollar. Well, it happened on Monday night, and I found the Lincoln Heights jail looking real tired after a rough weekend. They were putting fresh creosote on the walls in front of the drunk tank, and the guy at the desk looked like he'd burst his radiator if anybody phoned for another reservation. It was about 1 a.m., but after a couple of jokes I know about alligators, Sergeant Gonzalez hauled out a drawer with some cards in it. Under C, he found it. Full name, David Crockett, cell 273, solitary. Gonzalez walked me through a couple of corridors, and then he opened the cell and let me inside. Davy Crockett was there, awake and standing up. He was about 4 feet high, skinny, with a head like a sunburned turnip. He had blue veins roaming all over his nose and a handlebar mustache to hold him up. He looked at me like I was holding the fifth ace.
Howdy, stranger.
My name's Regan, International Detective Bureau.
How do I know? Start anything and I'll set up a racket.
Now, I work for the Lion. You called him.
Maybe yes, maybe no. You got credentials?
Where do you want him?
Easy, son. Not talking to an amateur. Flyweight champion, Buenos Aires, 29. Grab yourself a squat, partner.
What are you so nervous about?
Nothing. Be cautious, that's all.
All right, look, let's start at the beginning, shall we? What are you locked up for?
Fire plug. Got him in the dangest places in this burg.
What'd you do, steal it for your dog?
No. Parked my landlady's car alongside it while I ran an errand.
You don't get jugged for traffic tickets.
There were 2 cops. Looked like a posse. I don't like injustice.
All right, resisting arrest, is that all?
What more do you want? Told you I'm not a man to be trampled with. Taught judo in Tokyo, 34.
The Japs still lost the war.
Just so, Regan. You're working.
On what?
Well, it's just another errand. It's not much.
Well, come on, let's pick up the tempo, will you? My bicycle's double parked.
Say, you ever get saddle sores on a bicycle? I did once. 8-day race.
Yeah, I know. Now, what about this errand?
Little package wrapped up in a sweater. In the alley by the ash can.
Go on.
I calculate I dropped it about 3.5 feet to the left of the big ash can.
By accident?
Man can't fight with his hands full. I wrote down the address for you here.
All right. What's in that sweater you didn't want the cops to see?
A polecat.
It fits the rest of your story, yeah.
Son, there's nothing in the life of Davy Crockett won't stand inspection. When you get the package, check it in at the Union Station.
And then what?
Save me the stub. You get 100.
Save it for bail. You could do this job yourself.
Thought I told you, Sonny. I'd like to be lonesome.
So you had him lock you up on purpose?
No, I just like it here. You want a reference? Check any of the boys in Gower, Gulch.
Movie cowboy, huh?
Laddie, you're looking at the greatest jockey since Paul Revere. Eddie Sand to Eddie Arcaro. I beat them all. Kentucky Downs, 39.
Yeah, sure. Well, a job's a job, Davy, but I got a hot tip where I fit in.
Where's that?
Trailing the field. Well, I left the little man running his fingers through an old copy of Variety, and I went out into the street. It was about 3 o'clock, and a truck was throwing some water out and giving the gutter a shampoo. I picked up my car and started out to play retriever. That's when I spotted the blonde tailing me. She was using a 37 Packard, and the top was down. I could see her in the mirror. I could tell she had yellow hair like a rag doll. It took a few fast turns to get rid of her, but then I was solo when I pulled to a stop by the alley off Gower. It was in back of some old movie studios. About then, a drunk came pouring down the street, did a loop around a fire plug at the head of the alley, and sat down. He was the talented kind, and I figured he thought I was Arthur Godfrey. Well, I scrambled over some broken beer bottles looking for the sweater. It finally showed, lying beside a pack of newspaper and some dame's torn petticoat. That's when the drunk lost his tilt and began looking at me. I picked up an old shoe, I wrapped it in a newspaper, and I started out of the alley. The drunk went back to his audition, moving toward me.
Marie, the dawn is breaking, Marie, you'll soon be waking. Hi, friend, have a drink.
That's not my brand.
Don't be a mug. A little drink between friends is real nice.
We haven't been introduced.
My name's Maxwell. What's yours?
Slipped my mind.
That's the trouble with the whole world. No fellowship. Except for my girl, Marie. You know Marie?
No, I don't.
Sort of short and plump, a little sinus trouble.
It's too bad.
Thought you might have met her. Lots of fellowship in that girl. Every time you look, another fella.
All right, move it, buddy.
Now, you don't want to get by me, friends. You want to stand right there and have a little drink.
You got the subject we're going to talk about?
Yeah, sure. Here, what's in the package?
Dirty laundry.
Ain't that funny, though? I just got me a new Bendix.
Why don't you go into business?
That's what I'm going to do. You're my first customer.
No, I lux my dainties.
Yeah, don't go away, friend. I ain't through with my sales talk.
Well, hire a skywriter.
Hold up, I said.
Get your hands off of me.
All right, Regan, the round's over.
Yeah, what makes you the referee?
This does.
Friend here wants to play rough, Red.
Reconsider, Regan. It'll make you happy.
All right, what do you want?
The package.
You heard what he said, smart guy.
What if you work for it?
Hey, Max. Don't leave, Regan. We're not finished.
I got the package, Red.
Give him a tip for picking it up.
Sure. Guess I overpaid him.
easy to see it was their play. I had about as much chance as a midget in a basketball game. The muscles ambled off with the package that they took from me, and I crawled back for that sweater. It was still there, wrapped around something hard and round. And when I ripped it off, a shine caught my eye. It was a metal can of movie film, and the word Peru was marked on it. Not much for all the hush-hush, but it must have had a story. Well, I looked up a friend of mine who owned a camera shop, and I made a commotion with a $5 bill. That shook the sand out of him, and he rented me a projector with sound. The Lion's house was the next stop. We threw up a sheet on the wall and turned on the film. That completed the night. We had a trip to a good neighbor without a passport. Turned out to be a Joan Fitzpatrick giving us some kind of a travelogue.
The most colorful in the world. A temple of worship. Home of Peru, 2,000 years old.
Well, stop screaming. You're free.
You know I can't stand movies. I got sore eyes.
All right, shut up and listen to this.
Peru, the marketplace. A street vendor dressed in gay native costume, selling delicacies to Peruvian children. Beads and jewels of exquisite beauty wrought by the hands of master Peruvian artisans. Horse racing, an innovation from the modern world. And native dance.
I'm going to bed.
You won't sleep. I stole your eye shade.
Oh, Regan, I gotta get up early. I got lots to do.
It'll keep.
A veritable symphony of motion. And so, it's with heavy heart we say adieu to lovely Peru, land of the Peruvians, land of charm and enchantment. And with the setting sun, we take our leave.
Well, what'd you get out of it?
It's a headache.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the morning.
No, I can't wait.
What you doing now?
I'm phoning the city jail.
Looking for a room?
Looking for information. Davy will supply it.
You've been drinking.
Now listen, big shot. Somebody's after this film for some reason. I'm going to find it.
City jail, Sergeant Gonzalez speaking.
Danny's Regan.
Oh, hiya, Regan. I'm glad you called. I just got the joke about the alligators.
Now, well, do me a favor, will you?
Sure, pal, sure. See, I told it to the lieutenant. He's still laughing. You know, it may earn me a promotion, pal.
Let me talk to Davy Crockett.
Oh, I can't do that, Regan.
Well, you can say I'm his lawyer.
Well, it's not that, pal. He's not here anymore.
What do you mean?
Some guy bailed him out 20 minutes ago. When I was telling the lieutenant the joke, this guy in the briefcase comes in, slaps down the bail. Out walks your friend.
Well, he said he liked it there.
And Davy must have changed his mind.
Where'd he go?
Not very far. Just over to the morgue.
Well, the cowboy from Gower Gulch had spun his last yarn. Gonzalez told me that somebody had shot Crockett as soon as he hit the street. Oh, none of this made sense. The phony job, the blonde who tailed me, the fight in the alley, the corny movie. Well, the lion shoved the film in a desk, and I went out the door. I cut across his yard, but I stopped on the opposite sidewalk. My car wasn't alone. There was a 40-foot nag sniffing at its rear fender.
Hey, Regan.
Well, Maxwell.
That's me.
You look different. Did you take the cure?
Shut up. Somebody wants to see you.
If it's Marie, tell her my book's full.
Thought you might like a lift.
No, I got a friend who runs a streetcar, and I go on, beat it.
Regan, don't be that way.
Panatella, Maxwell.
Who's this, your father-in-law?
You smoke Regan?
No, it might explode.
Yeah.
So long.
Hold it, Buster. Get in. Oh, Max.
Max, I told you before, you're on probation.
That's all right. Don't pick on him, teacher. He didn't hurt me.
Get in front, Max.
Sure.
Where's your other boy, Red? We could play some bridge.
I thought he'd do better in the shoe business.
The one I gave him didn't fit, huh?
I'm a much misunderstood man, Mr. Regan. I'm sure you'll put your best foot forward.
I'd love to.
My card, Horace Grundy. Sometime earlier, a little man called me, Mr. Regan. Custer or Boone or...
Davy Crockett?
Of course. I want you to understand I get many such calls.
Party line.
It's a private number, but the salesmen bother me anyway.
It's tough to be popular. Davy tell you what he was selling?
No.
Well, he didn't tell me either.
Have it your own way. When I told him I'd meet him, he said he'd arranged to get out of jail. He said all he wanted was a job.
And he got one.
Yes, only there's no future to it. I wouldn't want anything like that happening to you, Mr. Regan.
I'll renew my insurance.
Oh, no, you'll come with me. It's more friendly.
Suppose I don't like to talk.
You won't have to, if everything goes all right.
Well, it's your taxi.
And you're paying the fare. All right, Maxwell. Cloverfield.
I never knew a guy could say the name of an airport and make it sound like Forest Lawn. Grundy sat in the corner checking the manicure on his fingernails, and Maxwell drove out Olympic. By the time we skidded into Clover, I'd figured absolutely nothing. It was still only 4 a.m., but there was a string of cars parked in the lot. I spotted a 37 Packard Roadster, but I was too busy getting rushed up onto the field to look for the blonde. Besides, the faster we ran, the more excited Grundy got. And then we rounded a hangar, and the reporters hit us.
Say, Louis B's pretty sore, huh?
No, Louis B. and I are friends. Just his plugs are burned. Put it through, boys.
Hey, wait a second. This Julio who's traveling on the plane, they say he wants $250,000. You going to pay him today?
After I see a workout. Come on, Regan, let's go.
Yeah, you're a real big man, Grundy.
I'm going to be, Regan. El Romano. Best rep of any horse in South America.
So that's it, huh? Where the ruins come from.
What's that?
Peru?
Oh, sure. Peruvian National Airways gave Julio a special plane. Everything special.
Like in the movies. Well, look, suppose you watch him unload. I'll take a back seat here.
Oh, no, Regan. This is a big day. I want you to see what's the ambulance for.
No, don't look at me.
Stick around, Regan. It could be you.
Hey, get that stretcher over there.
Oh, he kicked me,
It's Julio.
That's the guy who owns him?
Must be.
I tried to hold him. The halter break my rib.
Take it easy, boy. We got you.
What happened?
Bounce. The landing, she is rough, that is all. Where is the doctor?
We're going to the hospital. Lie down.
I'm broken in 6 places.
Lift up the stretcher. Come on, boys. Hurry it up.
Oh, he kicked me. Move fast, boys. Yes, hot.
Hey, Mr. Grundy!
Mr. Grundy, the horse!
Well, the guy on the plane started to yell just about the time they took Julio toward the rear of the ambulance. Grundy took a dive for the cargo door, and so did everybody else. And then I had to stand there while 6 feet of big shot cigar turned into a crybaby.
Look, Regan. Look at the horse's leg. He's kicked himself.
Okay, so he's clumsy.
But he might not run again. He was going to be mine, Regan.
That's too bad. Call a vet.
I have already paid $50,000 retainer on the horse, Regan.
I'll send you a lawyer.
I got an idea you're connected with this.
Oh, dry up, Buster. It's an accident.
Yeah? I got an idea there's going to be another accident.
Grundy, maybe you're right.
Go! Hey, drop him!
I didn't wait to see if he went down. Maxwell swung, but I took off through the crowd. I figured the Cloverfield wasn't for me, and I wasn't going to stick around for the daisies. And then I spotted a ride, the rear end of Julio's ambulance. I made it just as the buggy started to move. I pulled the door shut and tried not to step on a stretcher inside. I shouldn't even have bothered that. The stretcher was empty. The only patient was me.
You are listening to the story of the guy from Gower Gulch. Tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator. Commissions are still available in the Army Nurse Corps Reserve. Graduate registered nurses between the ages of 21 and 45 may qualify for service with this fine organization. If you are interested in joining the Army Nurse Corps and believe that you qualify for a commission, apply to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. And now, back to Jeff Regan, investigator, and the story of the guy from Gower Gulch.
Well, things were beginning to move like a hula dancer with a hot foot. Davy Crockett sent me out to pick up a roll of movie film. A Joan Fitzpatrick travelogue on beautiful Peru. There was something in it that was hot, but Crockett got himself plugged before he could say what it was. There were shots of a horse race in Peru. And when a big buster named Grundy turns up buying a nag from a Peruvian breeder, I figured a connection. So did Grundy. When the horse got hurt and Julio did a disappearing act with his money, everybody looked at me. That's when I took the shortest way to Hollywood in an ambulance, got in my car, and made it for home. Only parked up the street from my apartment was that same 37 Packard Roadster I'd been dodging all evening. The blonde wasn't in it. She was sitting in my place looking real hopeful.
Good evening. You keep late hours, Mr. Regan.
That's the kind of friends I've got.
Perhaps you ought to change them.
I'll stick it out. What do you want?
A little chance to talk to you.
It'll keep till morning.
Oh, but Mr. Regan, I've been waiting so long, you've got to talk to me now.
Why?
I'm Davy Crockett's wife. You've got something that belongs to me.
I don't see any wedding ring.
I don't wear one.
Scare off the other boys?
That's not a very nice remark, Mr. Regan.
No, but you'll let it go.
Only because it's not important.
Oh, stop it. You're not Davy's wife. If the little guy had anybody he could trust, he wouldn't have had to call him the lion.
All right, Mr. Regan. I lied.
Now, let's have it, lady. What are you after?
The roll of film.
That figures.
It's mine.
Convince me.
Mr. Regan, you're becoming very annoying.
Well, why don't you call the police?
But I tell you, it is mine.
Let's see the pink slip.
And so it is with heavy heart we bid adieu
That's
to...
enough. Yeah. I thought I knew that voice.
Davy stole the roll from my library. Now may I have it back?
Homicide will turn it over to you when they're ready.
I can't wait.
Well, what makes it so valuable?
I'm not sure.
And how do you know it is?
Because I'm not stupid, Mr. Regan. Somebody goes to a lot of trouble to break into my film library. But he only steals one roll of film.
Go on.
I put the police on Davy, follow them to the jail. So you go after the film. That adds up to pretty important business.
Did you push those holes in Davy?
Of course not.
Well, you're going to get a chance to prove that when Homicide starts speaking in your cupboard.
About the film, I'll buy it from you.
No sale. There's the door, lady. Use it. I threw the light switch and grabbed for the floor. When the noise stopped, I looked up. My landlady was going to be mad. The shots plowed a few holes into her flower pot. The blonde turned a couple of different colors and decided she could find safer company. She left with a fire escape without even goodbye. Well, I headed for the Lions. The idea being to make sure that he'd turn that film over to the police and advertise that I didn't have it anymore. That figured to cool me off and I could catch some sleep again. When I got there, the Lion looked kind of excited. He was wrapped up in a silk robe with red and gray stripes, and he carried a drink to match. He was holding a piece of that movie film up to the light.
Hey, Regan, I've been calling all over for you. Where you been?
I'm looking for a bed.
I don't pay you to sleep. You're on a job. Now, I've been thinking since you left. We're handling this wrong.
Yeah, now that's what I figured. Get on the phone.
What for?
To tell Homicide you got a package for him. You're turning over that film right now.
Easy.
You heard me, big shot. I'm tired of playing the fall guy.
Now, Regan, you don't know what you're saying. I've been running over the section on that Peruvian horse race. And you know what?
You picked the winner.
And we're going to collect.
Who's making book?
The insurance company.
Now, come on, clear it up.
Look at this clip.
Yeah.
Well, what do you see? What do you see?
Looks like a horse.
But look at him. He's way out in front. El Romano.
Yeah, maybe.
Now, here's the way I add it up. This film tells a story, or everybody wouldn't be grubbing around for it.
Well, now that takes a big brain.
So somebody's engineering a phony.
Who?
That's what you're going to find out. But I'll tell you one thing. That nag's insured by Banner Trust, and they pay off big if we can turn up the swindle.
All right. Give me that picture.
Where you going?
Over to Grundy's to check the horse.
Now you're talking, Regan. You dig that out and we'll be eating squab.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you'll be collecting your unemployment insurance.
Well, the payoff's about the same. I didn't like it any better than a fan dancer like the wind tunnel. I'd already seen enough of Grundy and his boys for one night, but when the Lion gets an idea, he's like a hangman with a new rope. So I went out to test it. I found Horace Grundy's place. It was a bright new house in the San Fernando Valley. There was some fancy fence in back, and a stable looked like the paint was still wet where it said El Romano. A trailer was parked on the road with a truck from the veterinarians. When Grundy opened the front door, it looked like he'd been sitting a 3-day wake, but without any beer.
Hello, Regan.
Now, what's the verdict?
It's bad, Regan. Bad. Tendons torn. Never run. Never.
Yeah, you said that.
I can't believe it.
Uh-huh. I knew somebody else like the animals. A guy from Gower Gulch.
Decided to talk?
Maybe. If you keep your hands in the audience.
What else did Crockett say?
Now you got him on the wheel.
All right, you drive.
That's better. Do you know the horse is insured?
Not by me, it isn't.
You don't own it. You just paid a deposit.
Sure, 50 G's.
You got it back yet?
There's plenty of time. Julia was in the hospital.
Oh? Well, now, if it wasn't for the accident, you would have coughed up another $200,000.
Yes. No. Oh, what difference does it make? The whole deal's a bust now.
What if that horse is a phony?
Say some more, Regan.
I don't know much more. Davy Crockett was a movie fan.
You're doing fine. You had pictures?
I wouldn't advertise them, but there's a shot of a horse winning a race. Take a look here.
Give me that.
It's economy size. You're going to ruin your eyesight.
I got a magnifying glass for my income tax.
Now, let's get a light behind it. Now, what do you see?
Horse.
You get a star.
4 white feet.
I can do that well myself.
Listen, Regan. Horse in the stable's got 3.
That does it. My boss gets promoted.
Come on outside. I'll show you.
I'll take your word for it. Let go of me. I got my information.
Maxwell, where are you?
I told you, don't whistle the bulldogs.
You're in it now, Regan. You're on my side.
I drop your blood pressure. There's a handkerchief on the plate.
Hey, wait. Hello. I look for somebody. Good morning.
Pan America.
Si. I'm Julio. Is Mr. Grundy?
It's the guy with his mouth open there.
How do you do? I'm so glad to meet in
Crockett.
Okay?
You switch horses.
No, you'll not understand. El Romano, he kicked me.
Wait for the encore.
Mr. Grundy, with belief, I'm telling you.
Now, look, you better make it fast, Julio. This guy goes
Shut
off.
up, Regan. A man trades a stretcher for a slab. Let him talk.
The hospital. I did not go. Julio is honest. A debt comes first.
The interest's going up.
When El Romano hurts himself, I know the deal is off. I know I must see the consul, so we cash the check.
What?
Here we are. 10,000, 20, 30, 40, 50. Your down payment is up. Now we are one big happy United Nations, no?
Well, that's what happened. Now there were two guys with their mouths open. By the time we got them closed, the little gent from Peru had waddled off someplace, and Grundy folded his money and started to laugh. He was happy, and at least I had what I came for. Figured I could dump the whole plate of spaghetti on the lion. The lead horse in the travelogue was a different nag from the one in the stable. So I got in my car and headed for home. But I picked up a newspaper on the corner, and then the whole bucket turned upside down again. The green sheet was loaded with publicity shots of El Romano from South America, and he was exactly the same oat burner that came in on the plane, feet and all. No switch there. Well, there was something phony in this act. It was that winner in that Fitzpatrick film. Well, for a minute I felt like a test pilot in a yo-yo factory, and then the string broke. I took a fast run to the Lions and one more look at those movies. I had it. The case was beginning to wind. 10 minutes later, I was back on Gower Gulch.
Yes? Who is this?
Regan, you alone?
Don't be insulting.
I'll open the door. What's the matter? You're slow.
What do you want?
Ask me in.
No.
Ask me in.
Regan, look out!
Be careful, Regan. I have a gun.
Well, Julio.
Yes, Julio.
What are you doing here?
Well, I told you.
I know. Back at my place, you're aiming at her, not me. She's been to Peru. She has the films. You knew that.
You whistle like I know it.
I go to the movies like everybody else. I keep my eyes on the winner. After Hollywood Park, I should have known better.
Yeah, there are lots of races.
El Romano was a dud. He came in last. 60 lengths with Davy Crockett digging in the spurs. You gave the nag a build-up, phony publicity to the sucker and insurance company.
$250,000, I was over.
Can it? You could have never closed a sale without Grundy watching a workout. That would have been a slow boat to China.
You want to be a sailor, too?
Oh, stop being tough, will you? You wore yourself out when you kicked up El Romano in that plane.
It looked good.
Not to me or Joan.
Look out, Regan. You're asking for a daily double.
Well, I'm going to take it across the board. Give me that gun.
Leave me
Stop
alone.
it.
No, you're breaking my arm.
That's the idea.
I'll kick you in the stomach.
You better go back to his stretcher.
Well,
Yeah.
you can be useful.
Well, when I'm working.
What about after hours? I'm not bad, you know.
I never noticed.
Look again.
No, I'm all through with the ponies.
Want a bet?
Davy Crockett told me to play my hunches.
Here I am.
Yeah, but you're a loser.
What do you mean?
You threw those holes into Davy.
It was Julio.
Oh, you're trying real hard, but he was on the plane.
What do I do now?
Well, you might bid a fondue to Gower Gulch.
That's not funny, Regan.
I know it. But you ran out of film. Well, the whole thing blew up like a hoop skirt in a high wind. Julio had a real good thing until he ran into the little man with a good memory and a dame with a fast trigger finger. Her blackmail fix was already set up, but Davy figured to queer it, so she had to knock him off. Well, the hospital boys came after Julio, and homicide dated Joan, the travel queen. The Lion was pretty excited about the way things worked out. He figured that the insurance company would come across with some green stuff for exposing a fraud. They did. That was the color of the season pass they gave him to the Burton Holmes travel lectures.
Jack Webb is featured as Jeff Regan with Herb Butterfield as Anthony J. Lyon. It's CBS at the same time next week for more hard-boiled action and mystery with Jeff Regan, investigator. Written by Larry Roman and Jackson Gillis, produced by Sterling Tracy. Included in tonight's cast were Leo Clary, Clayton Post, Yvonne Patey, Ed Begley, and Herb Ellis. 29,000 nurses are needed to join the new Army Nurse Corps Officers Reserve. For the first time in history, qualified nurses have the opportunity of receiving commissions in the regular Army Reserve. These nurses will remain on inactive status, ready to serve their country in time of emergency. 4,000 of them, if they wish, may choose active duty. All nurses who receive commissions will benefit from the opportunity for specialized training offered to them by the Army. Inactive reserve status will not interfere with the nurse's civilian life, but the educational opportunities offered her by the Army Medical Department will be of a great advantage in her work. Don't wait. If you're a registered graduate nurse between the ages of 21 and 45, drop a card for complete information to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. Original music for this program is by Milton Charles, Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, there was actually, I've added several quotes into the show notes. There was actually a three-way tie for the best quotes of this show. A lot of great similes here. Now, one reference people may not have quite gotten was his when he said sometimes you have to take a gamble, and Regan responded with a reference to George Gallup. Gallup, of course, was a pollster and the original founder of the polling firm, and they had just had the 1948 election, which went contrary to what Gallup predicted. So that's the short of that particular reference. All right. Well, we have two quick comments. If you have ever thought about listening to old-time radio, start with this podcast. Adam's knowledge and love of the genre show in each podcast. Adam, please keep up the good work. And go, Adam. We'll get you to number one soon. Well, thank you so much. And if you'd like to help us climb the rankings, go to podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Comments are appreciated but not required. You can vote without commenting. And over at the Facebook page, Bob comments, great podcast. Love listening to these while on a long car trip or during dinner. Keep up the good work. Well, thanks, Bob. And I find these radio programs definitely are nice during car trips or doing things that are a little more monotonous, like going to the store. But thanks for listening, and thanks for becoming a fan on Facebook at facebook.greatdetectives.net. Before we do get started, I want to remind you to try out Audible if you have not already. It gives you access to a world of audio entertainment, including best-selling audiobooks, classics, as well as access to large old-time radio sets that you can choose as your monthly selection. You get one audiobook a month, plus you get a complimentary audio subscription to your choice, Wall Street Journal or New York Times. And you can try it out for free for 2 weeks. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio to start your free trial. Well, today's episode of Let George Do It, we are missing the first part of the show and the first commercial break. I did not cut those out. That's just the way the file came. So bear with us today, because I know a lot of people look forward to those. But let's get into today's episode of Let George Do It. Who's Sylvia?
Who is Sylvia? Another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice. Changes my stock and trade. If it's something you're afraid to let someone else do for you, you can trust me, George Valentine. Write full details. Dear Mr. Valentine, is she trying to get me out of her life, or is it my imagination? Is she in love with someone else, or am I just going mad with jealousy? I've got to know these things about Sylvia, or I won't be able to go on. Maybe it's weak and degrading for a man to grovel like this, but you've got to help me. I'll be waiting for you at my home.
Waiting for you at my home between the hours of 2 and 4. Gratefully yours, Leslie Graham.
Uh-huh.
Whoever wrote this letter had a hard time keeping the pen on the paper, Brooksy.
Well, it's a pretty pathetic letter to swallow, George.
It ain't problem, Angel. The guy's in a bad way.
Well, I don't see how you fit in. This is something for the psychiatrist's couch.
Yeah, maybe so. I'm curious.
Hmm?
Who was Sylvia? What is she?
Valentine, we have to hurry. Sylvia may be back any minute. She's out shopping.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to get started, Graham.
Yes, why don't you pull yourself together?
Valentine, I want you to put my mind at ease. Assure me one way or the other that the things I keep thinking are either right or wrong.
Oh, in other words, you want me to spy on your wife?
Oh, no, it's not as tawdry as that. It's something that happens to a man when he's in love with a creature as beautiful as Sylvia.
Why don't you try trusting her, Mr. Graham?
Why? Here, Miss Brooks. Take a look at this picture. Can't you see why the word trust becomes meaningless?
Yeah, very choice. But there are a great many beautiful women in the world, Graham. Some of them even manage to wash diapers.
No, you wouldn't understand. When we were first married, the only person I was jealous of was her dead husband. Then it started. I began to hate every man who stared at her in the street. Then whenever I was away from her, I was no good for anything.
All right, now, all right.
Now there's a handsome blonde gentleman named Tom Vickers who trails around after her. So you can see how...
I can see everything, Graham. But it's no soap. Divorce cases as such are not in my line.
You would help me if I could make you understand. Understand how a man can get on his knees and keep begging a woman over and over again to tell him that she loves it. Yes, you could be that much afraid of losing her, Valentine.
Find the liquor cabinet. Get him some brandy.
Okay, George.
Oh, I'm tired.
Come on now, sit down. Now go on, do as I say. Sit down.
I feel like I'm dead inside.
You'll be all right in a minute.
Here, Mr. Graham. Take this.
Thank you.
Oh, Leslie. This is a pretty tableau, I must say. What's happened?
Just two friends. They were just leaving Sylvia.
What has Leslie been telling you? And who are you?
The name's Valentine, Mrs. Graham. Your husband thought we could investigate a private matter for him.
And we were just leaving.
I'm the only private matter in my husband's life, Mr. Valentine. But it seems that I'm not private enough.
Please, Sylvia, not in front of these people.
What difference does it make after what you must have told them? I'm sure Leslie hired you to spy on me.
You can relax. I'm not for hire.
I know what Leslie's like when he starts raving, Mr. Valentine. What were some of the more vivid highlights of his fantasies?
Believe me, Mrs. Graham, he had nothing but good to say about you.
Oh, Leslie, what am I going to do with you?
I know. Well, darling, what's happened to this love of ours?
Well, you ought to know. You've done everything to strangle it with your insane jealousy.
How the other side lives.
You never trusted me a moment. When you could have loved me, you made scenes.
I stopped off and got the...
Oh, I didn't realize you had company, Sylvia.
This isn't company, Tom. It's a three-ring circus. Leslie, after the disgusting spectacle you've made of yourself, I think you ought to go upstairs.
Yes, Sylvia. All right, I'll go.
Sylvia, you shouldn't have spoken to Leslie like that.
Oh, shouldn't I have? Here, darling, take these packages into the other room.
But that's true.
Please,
You had...
Tom, I want to speak to these people. Alone.
Okay, Sylvia.
Yes, Sylvia?
I see we've become friends.
You should live that long.
No, I must apologize for Miss Brooks. Sometimes her frankness embarrasses me. What were you going to say?
Well, Mr. Valentine, I wanted you to understand. I have to be firm with Leslie. If I coddled him, he'd only feel sorry for himself.
Well, it seems to me that when a man's in a state like that, even a very beautiful wife could find a touch of kindness in her. Good night, Sylvia.
Good night. You didn't mention your first name.
Never knew fresh air could smell so good.
Oh, I think I know the secret of Sylvia's attraction. She wears knockout drops for perfume.
Ooh, it is Sylvia.
Well, the beautiful Sylvia seems to have made an impression.
Brooksy, I got a fast research job for you. Back files down at the newspaper.
What do you mean, George?
There's a house full of dynamite back there, Angel. And when and if the blow-off comes, I want to be well informed.
Curious again?
Still curious. Who is Sylvia? What is she?
got all that stuff you wanted. And believe me, it took some digging.
Good work, Brooksy. Let's see.
Well, Sylvia hooked Leslie 3 years ago. He was a wealthy investment broker.
Uh-huh, but what about the late spouse number 1?
Oh, hold your hat, darling. Sylvia and Hugh Frankel, a Chicago importer, enjoyed married bliss less than a year. Then, alas, the poor man departed this world under sad circumstances.
Yeah, Brooksy. Never mind the suspense.
Well, after a midnight snack of liver patty sandwiches, which proved to be tainted, Frankel died of ptomaine poisoning and indigestion. It seems Sylvia wasn't feeling well that evening and just had toast and tea.
Well.
And according to the Chicago newspapers, the coroner's jury could see nothing other than an unfortunate accident.
Yeah, well, it was probably looking at Sylvia all the time.
What goes with that girl, George? What has she got?
You mean besides deluxe equipment and extras?
Mm-hmm.
A mind that's always figuring what's best for Sylvia. A heart that's just put there to beat, and a soul that thrives on men rolling in the dust.
Oh, wait a minute. That's a recipe worth putting down.
To some guys, that combination like the apple was to Eve. They know it's no good for them, but they want it. Yeah, well, we'll go on with this session on abnormal psychology in a minute. Hello, Valentine. Oh, yeah, Lieutenant. Well, sure I was out there. What's that, Riley? Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, of course I'll be right there.
What is it, George? For Lieutenant Riley, that was a short conversation.
The good lieutenant happens to be very busy at the Grahams.
The Grahams?
Yeah, Brooksy. Leslie Graham killed himself this evening.
Valentine, you wouldn't find me here at all tonight on what looks like a routine suicide case, except for one thing.
Oh, I'm away ahead of you, Lieutenant. You found out that I paid a little visit to the Graham homestead yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Then I was afraid to stay away, if you know what I mean.
Oh, we both know what you mean.
Don't be so understanding, Miss Brooks.
I'm sorry.
We checked with the partner in Graham's firm downtown. He says Graham was making all kinds of morbid remarks throughout the day about life not being worth the candle. You know, scintillating stuff like that. Does that check with what you found, or is there more to it?
Well, Lieutenant, Graham was in an even worse frame of mind when I saw him.
Yeah? What do you want to see about?
Unhappiness, Lieutenant?
Oh, unhappiness, he says. Now, would you mind being just a little more specific? Was he unhappy because of his golf game? Or did someone nudge his fenders? Come on, get to the point or I'll...
Yes, sir, Lieutenant, yes, sir. Yeah. Graham was unhappy because he wasn't getting along with Mrs. Graham. He wanted me to get the usual kind of evidence.
And we have scruples, you know, Lieutenant.
I know. Well, he wouldn't be the first guy to buff himself off because of a sour marriage.
Where is Mrs. Graham?
In the drawing room with that whatchamacallit guy, Vickers.
Oh, how cozy.
Yeah. Hey, Doc, are you through?
Yes, Lieutenant. Seems to be just as the family doctor said.
And what was that?
Oh, hello, Valentine. Grim loaded his highball glass full of Renapol, Lieutenant.
Renapol?
Yeah. You can buy it in any drugstore. You don't need a prescription. It's specific for headaches, mostly migraine.
Well, wouldn't Graham have to take a lot of it?
He took a whole bottle.
Oh.
And with whiskey, that really means a one-way ticket. Anyway, he didn't find it hard to take. It's practically tasteless.
Well, I'll go and tell Mrs. Graham. There'll be an inquest in a couple of days.
And I'll go write out my report.
So long, Doc.
All right, my fancy friend. Why did you hold out on the lieutenant like that?
Did I do that?
Oh, stop being coy, George.
Well, everything I said was the absolute truth.
Yeah, but you didn't say enough. You could have made this thing look more like murder and less like suicide. You know, house full of dynamite, the first husband who was crazy for liver patty sandwiches.
Well, you heard the lieutenant, Angel. There'll be an inquest, so the facts will come out a few days later.
Yes, but what's the idea?
Just this, Brooksy. I want Sylvia to play hand as though she had all the cards in the deck. Give her every chance to make a slip.
Oh. George. What have you got there under your top coat?
You mean this?
Oh, you swiped her picture. Oh, now, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on my desk and just stare at it. What do you think it'll do to me?
It'll get you a black eye from me. Oh, now, look, what's on your mind, George?
I don't know, Brooksy. Let's say just a hunch. Now, you run along home. I'm going to pay a few calls on the neighborhood druggists. See you in the morning.
Now, let me see. Well, the fact is I haven't seen Mrs. Graham in my drugstore in weeks.
I see.
The truth is I sold one bottle of Renapol recently, And that was to a man.
Yeah, well, what did he look like? Can you remember? Come on, try.
Oh, that's easy. He was a big, strapping fellow. I was saying to myself, who'd think anybody like that would have a head?
Yeah, but what did he look like?
Broad shoulders, blonde hair, like an athlete.
That's enough. Thank you, friend. Alone, Sylvia? What did you do? Send Tommy home?
Yes, George. You see, I took the trouble to find out your first name.
Oh. I thought Tommy'd be here trying to comfort you in your bereavement.
Well, he was. But his efforts were getting a little too arduous. And I've had a long and hectic day. What do you want?
I just wanted to tell you I know Tommy bought that Renapol.
Oh, really? Well, maybe he had a headache.
Oh, I'm full of all kinds of miscellaneous information tonight. I also know that a certain Mr. Frankel ate his way into an early grave.
I'm an ill-starred woman. I just can't keep husband.
Well, it should make interesting small talk at the inquest.
You won't get a rise out of me.
I can try. How about this? What happened to your picture, Sylvia?
What? So you're the one who took it.
Well, it's just a picture.
I want it back, and you're going to give it to me.
Going to the police? You seem to have lost some of your poise, Sylvia.
I swear I'll kill you if you don't get out of my life.
I moved in to stay.
You're going to change your mind.
Well, now, take it easy. Put that punch bowl down. It's probably worth a lot of dough.
You forgot that I've got plenty of money.
What?
You're going to have a face full of scratches for weeks.
Get away. Do you want me to take it?
You still think that I couldn't kill you.
Sylvia, what's going on?
Oh, Tommy. So glad you've come back.
Valentine, what are you trying to do?
Defend myself, and not too successfully.
Tommy, 1 minute more and I wouldn't have known what to do.
You do anything to hurt her, Valentine, and I'll kill you.
Why don't you start now? I feel just like
Well, you bet I'll do.
Now, don't bother getting up, Jungle Jim. Just listen. Being threatened with murder twice in 5 minutes does something for my ego, but it does even more to my temper.
You have had a pretty busy 5 minutes, haven't you?
Slow motion, Sylvia. Just wait till I really get started.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment.
Brings you in deadly conflict with the wife, Sylvia. You can't say she's the most beautiful woman you've ever seen because you haven't seen them all. Yes, Sylvia, who has you threatened with death twice in 5 minutes.
George, isn't it enough to have Sylvia's picture in front of you on the desk? You don't have to stare at it with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, well, somehow, Angel, I don't feel I've gotten close enough to that lady.
Well, you've gotten close enough for her to play tic-tac-toe all over your face.
Well, it wasn't all one-sided. She has a few broken fingernails to show for it.
Oh, darling, you know you're skating on thin ice. Especially now that you found out Vickers bought that Renapol.
That's right. Go ahead and comfort me. Now, look, Brooksy.
Yeah.
This picture of Sylvia stealing all the glory from the beautiful mansion in the background was taken by a professional photographer.
Well, so what?
So his name is on the back of it, Horace Maddox in Sanford. I want you to have a chat with him.
Way out in Sanford?
Yeah, that's right. Find out when he took this picture, where, the name of the woman, everything.
Oh, George, we know the name.
Don't argue, Brooksy. Just make sure you're back in time for the inquest. I'm going to need that information.
To prove what?
Well, I'm only guessing now. Wow.
Hello.
I'm not used to receiving ladies in my apartment at this hour. Besides, I don't remember putting you on my list.
Aren't you going to ask me in?
I really ought to frisk you for deadly weapons first, but come on in.
Thank you.
All right, Sylvia, what is it?
George, why can't you like me?
Like you? Why, you're my fluffy little lamb.
I know you think I'm here because I want something.
Yeah, I bet I know what it is. You were baking a cake and you just ran out of sugar.
I want that picture.
Oh, no, Sylvia, no fisticuffs tonight.
No, this time I'm willing to pay for it, George.
Hmm?
In exchange, you can have me and everything I've got.
Wow, that's like being offered Fort Knox and throwing in Hedy Lamarr as an afterthought.
I think I'd like the arrangement, too. I have an idea that you'd be the first man I ever met who'd be able to tell me what to do.
Well, thanks. That puts me right in the same class with Clyde Beatty.
As far as money's concerned, George, you may know what you're getting. I don't want there to be any unknown quantity in the deal.
And to think they go to all that trouble to make an atom bomb.
Well?
Look, Sylvia, I want to live a little longer. You're as treacherous as the ragged edge of an open tin can. Now, get this straight. I'm sticking with this case, even if it gives me gray hair and bursitis in the left shoulder.
All right. Now I've got a surprise for you.
Here we go.
Yesterday, Tommy Vickers and I were married. Okay. You can stop rocking on your heels, George.
Married to Vickers? And still making fancy offers?
That could have been arranged. You just have to wait a little while.
Oh, brother, this is the jackpot. First Hugh Frankel, then Leslie Graham, then Tom Vickers. Then eventually one George Valentine.
I don't know what you mean.
Are you crazy?
Never mind that. Let me tell you why I married Tom.
No, let me tell you, because I'm a chump, a nuthead. With what I knew, I could have stopped it.
Yes, but you didn't, Don.
Now, when this case comes to trial, you won't have to testify against Tommy. All the background of this sordid little triangle.
The story I'll tell is that I knew suspicion might point to Tom, but to show my faith in his innocence, I married him anyway.
Oh, I gotta hand it to you, Sylvia.
Me too. The other way. It's too bad one of us has to lose. And it's not going to be me.
Oh, yes, Miss Brooks. I remember very well the day I took that picture.
Well, that's fine, Mr. Maddox.
Annie was so excited I could hardly make her stand still.
Annie?
Why, yes. Annie Ferguson, that's her name.
Oh, yes, please go on.
She was so beautiful that day. She kept rattling on about her father's mansion. She wanted to make sure that I got Woody Crest into the picture. In a way, it was, well, a little pathetic.
Well, is there anything else you can remember about her?
Well, I know she couldn't have been very happy there because shortly afterwards she ran away.
Oh, I see. Well, now tell me, just how do I get to this Woody Crest?
Oh, it's just on the outskirts of town. Any cab will take you there.
Oh, that's fine.
They'll be glad to see you. I know they've been trying to locate Annie all these years.
All right, everybody, we can start now. This is Assistant District Attorney Griggs.
This is all going to be very informal. We ought to be out of your house in a little while, Mrs. Graham.
Oh, that's all right, Mr. Griggs.
I'm supposed to assure all of you that you're not supposed to say anything here today that might incriminate you, just in case what transpires here warrants an indictment. Is that clear? We all know the circumstances of Leslie Graham's death. Do you have any further comments to make on your autopsy report, Coroner?
No, sir. Death due to overdose of Renapol.
Very well, we can go on. Just a few questions. I believe, Valentine, you said you had something important in connection with this inquiry.
Yeah, that's right, D.A. I have another witness I'd like to introduce.
Sergeant, tell Mr. Cook we're ready for him now.
Yes, sir.
Hello? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, certainly. It's for you, Mr. Valentine.
Thanks.
Look, Valentine, do you have to have personal calls in here?
Well, it won't happen again, Lieutenant. Hello? Yeah, Brooksy. The airport? Well, you ought to be able to get here in a few minutes. Go on. Well, I guess now I can stop guessing. Go on, hop a cab, Angel.
All right, now, are you Mr. Cook?
Yes, sir.
Well, look, don't be nervous. I just want to ask you one question. Take a look around this room.
Yes.
A few days before Leslie Graham's death, someone bought a bottle of Renapol in your drugstore. Do you see that person in this room?
Why, yes. It's that gentleman over there with the blonde hair. Hey, what is this?
Is that true, Mr. Vickers?
Well, I guess so, but I didn't think it was important.
Ye gods, not important, he says. I could buy Renapol. Joe Smith could buy it. But when you do, Vickers, it's more than important.
Well,
why'd you buy it? Do you suffer from headaches?
Well, no, but I can explain.
Why don't you, Vickers?
Well, it's all very simple. I don't know how Leslie got hold of this stuff, but I bought it for Sylvia.
What?
What do you say?
Well, didn't I? Why, for months you've been telling me about those terrible headaches, going to the doctor twice a week.
Tom, I don't want to believe it.
Believe what? It was raining that day. You wanted to get home, so you asked me to stop in at the drugstore.
Is that true, Mrs. Graham? Or Mrs. Vickers, rather? I keep forgetting.
Mrs. Vickers. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm married to the man who killed Leslie.
Sylvia.
Keep talking, Mrs. Vickers.
I haven't had a headache in ages. My doctor can tell you that. Tom. Oh, Tom, I believed you. You were such a comfort when Leslie wasn't himself. And now to think that you try to use me to get out of this terrible mess.
But I'm not. I'm not.
Leslie may not have been the best husband in the world, but he was a human being. Oh, Tom. Oh, Tom, I can't lie for you.
Kiss of death. What did you say, Valentine?
Nothing, Lieutenant. I was just sympathizing with Mrs. Vickers.
You can do that later, Valentine. Surely you've got something to say, Vickers.
Oh, I could go on saying I'm innocent. What good would it do?
If you didn't buy this run of pal for Mrs. Graham, then it couldn't have accidentally found its way into her husband's whiskey. Facts leave me no choice but to ask for an indictment for murder.
Just a minute, Griggs. I'd like to say something.
If it has something to do with the case, go ahead, Valentine.
First of all, I agree that there should be an indictment for murder.
Oh, what are you doing? Just making it unanimous? Come on, quit stalling.
Hey, hold on there, young lady. Where do you think you're going?
On my way, Sergeant.
I don't have to stall any longer, Lieutenant.
Here you are, George.
Good.
What's this all about?
1 minute, T.A. Lieutenant? Briggs, take a look at this picture.
Well, what about it?
Just wanted you to look at it. Now, you, Sylvia. Do you recognize this?
Well, of course. That's a picture of myself.
And the house in the background.
That's Father's mansion on our estate.
Uh-huh. Gentlemen, take a look at this picture through this magnifying glass. The white plaque on the entrance post. Ordinarily, you can't see it. Go on, now, what does it say, Griggs?
Well, I can make out, Woody Crest.
Okay, that's the name of the place.
But there's another word that follows. You can only see the first 2 letters. The shrubbery covers the rest.
That's right. S-A...
Well? Surprisingly few words in the English language beginning with S-A that fit with Woody Crest. Would you give us that word, Sylvia?
No!
Brooksy, you just came from Sanford. What did you find Woody Crest was?
A sanatorium.
More brutally, a mental institution. An insane asylum. They're still looking for one Annie Ferguson who escaped 5 years ago and embarked on a new life and a new career. Murder.
It's going on and on, and a word for you.
Take it easy. Take it easy. Help me with the Griggs.
Sylvia, no matter what they do, I'll stick by you. You didn't know what you were doing.
Oh, Sylvia, you fool. Don't you realize that you were going to sit in the gas chamber for what I did to Leslie? And I'd get your money, too. But now you know.
Yes, sir. Now we know who is Sylvia and what she is.
All right, Valentine. You were as smart as a whip. But don't think I'm forgetting you held out on me.
Well, I'm sorry, Lieutenant. I thought that was the only way to do it.
But the next time...
Time. Back to your corners, gentlemen.
Oh, saved by the bell.
Oh, darling, I know your mind moves in mysterious ways, but...
Yeah?
But what made you so sure it was murder and it had to be Sylvia?
Well, no matter how much of a patsy Tommy Boy is, he wouldn't buy any poisonous substance right at the corner drugstore. That's when I vaguely began to suspect some kind of a trap.
More coffee, folks?
Oh, yes, please. I'd like
When
some.
you're through there, I'll take a check, Sylvia.
What's your name, sister?
Sylvia.
I don't feel so good.
I don't think I want any more coffee.
I want to go home.
Most motorists today expect and deserve at least 3 things from their cars: fast start, smooth acceleration, and lots of extra power. And if you haven't been enjoying these 3 motoring advantages, we'll have to blame it on the recent and unavoidable shortage of Chevron Supreme gasoline. But the shortage is over, and right now you can get high-octane Chevron Supreme again at most any standard station or independent Chevron gas station. So if your car has had starting trouble, and if it's been logy on hills, say goodbye to all that annoyance by saying, fill her up with Chevron Supreme. One of the reasons this premium quality gasoline gives your car all the motoring advantages your car was made for is because it's climate tailored. That means Chevron Supreme gasoline gives peak performance in each different altitude and temperature zone, wherever you drive in the West. Ask for a tank full at an independent Chevron gas station or a standard station, where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll find George poring over the latest letter to come to his desk, a letter that reads,
Dear Valentine, I bet you never heard of this before. I've got to commit a crime to keep from being a criminal. And what I've got to do involves murder. There's no way out for me unless I can get some help. You can't get in touch with me, so I'll be dropping in on you. The name, Bill Moran.
Next week, a new and exciting case for George. Stand in for murder. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Frances Robinson as Claire. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Frances Cheney as Sylvia, Louis Van Ruten as Graham, George Neese as Tommy, Ken Christie as Griggs, and Fred Howard as Maddox. The music is composed and conducted by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. What a great, well-crafted mystery. There was just so much action, and the character of Sylvia just fantastically done. And the dialogue was great. This was one of those episodes of Let George Do It that could have been done on any hard-boiled show, but they did it here, and they did it very well. We've got a very nice iTunes review we're going to discuss after the show. But before we do get started, I want to remind you about Netflix before we start the show. Netflix is a great feature where you're able to choose to watch the movies that you want to watch. From a wide selection of more than 90,000 films, you can enjoy classic television or great movies or great mysteries. From Philip Marlowe to Monk. You can, and of course, Sherlock Holmes in his many incarnations. Go to the greatdetectives.net, click on the Netflix link, or go to netflix.greatdetectives.net. Well, let's get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, The Accidental Murderess.
This episode from the life of Sherlock Holmes will be transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to spend the next half hour listening to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, the world-famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. As for me, I'd like to leave you with one thought. Namely, the best way to begin a good meal is to start it off with a glass of Petri California sherry. While you're waiting for dinner to be ready, just sit back, take it easy, and sip some of that wonderful Petri sherry. Now, there's a wine. Hold that Petri sherry to the light and look at that rich amber color. Smells good, too, doesn't it? And just wait for that first sip. What a flavor. No kidding, you'll find that Petri sherry can turn the usual before-dinner lull into a real event. Petri sherry is the best beginning a good meal ever had. Try it. And say, if you like your sherry dry, not sweet, Just ask for Petri California Pale Dry Sherry. But no matter how you like it, you're sure to like it if the label says Petri. See for yourself. And now for the weekly visit with our good friend and host, Dr. Watson. Tonight we find him on the stage of the Paramount Theater in Hollywood. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Bartell. If you've bought a victory bond, you're welcome.
I have, Doctor. Now, what's the recipe for tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure?
Well, now let me see. Take equal parts of beautiful English countryside and black villainy. Mix them, add a dash of romance, a sprinkling of danger, season well with the usual theatrical condiments, and you have the case of the accidental murderess.
Sounds like a tasty dish. How did the story begin, Doctor?
On a beautiful summer day in 1895, Holmes had just concluded his famous investigation of the sudden death of Cardinal Tosca, an inquiry which was carried out at the express desire of His Holiness the Pope. And in consequence, the great man felt that a couple of weeks' rest in the heart of Warwickshire would be a pleasant change after our rather strenuous adventures in Italy. And so, Mr. Bartell, we went to Stratford-on-Avon.
Oh, the home of Shakespeare, huh?
Quite right, my boy. As a matter of fact, that was the reason that decided us to go there. Holmes was a great lover of the drama, you know, and at the time my story begins, the Shakespearean festival was in full swing. For the first week, our life there was calm and peaceful. During the daytime, we visited the local places of interest, such as Anne Hathaway's cottage and Shakespeare's birthplace, and the evenings found us at the theater. It was on a Tuesday, I remember, during our second week's stay, that the trouble began. Holmes and I had gone for a walk through the nearby forest of Avon. He was in unusually good spirits that morning, and there was a distinct twinkle in his eye as he said,
Watson, for once I begin to wish that I were a man of wealth.
Oh, and what makes you say that, Holmes?
The beauty of this place, old fellow. I'm perfectly certain I'd be happy in retirement here. It's rather depressing to think that in a week or two the sordid necessity of making money will demand my return to Baker Street in a world of criminals.
No, I must say that in an environment like this, it is a little hard to think of crime. How does the old saying go? Where every prospect pleases, and only man is vile.
Yes, but Shakespeare puts it even better, old chap.
Oh, really? What's he say?
Well, surely you remember the speech in As You Like It. We saw the production 2 nights ago.
Oh, I don't remember the speech. How did it go?
In this setting, it's really remarkably apposite. Are not these woods more free from peril than the envious court? Here feel we but the penalty of Adam, the season's difference. Don't you remember? Sweet are the uses of adversity, which like the toad, ugly and venomous, wears yet a precious jewel in his head. And this our life exempt from public haunt finds tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. I would not change it.
Upon my soul, you read that much better than the fellow on the stage the other night.
Don't tell me I adopted the wrong profession, Watson. Oh, dear me, wait a minute. Path seems to end here. Nothing but dense trees ahead of us.
There's another path over there. I think it leads down to the river.
Then let's follow it. The Avon is always...
Great Scott, that was a... Holmes! Holmes, you hurt?
Yes, I think I am. Bullet hit my shoulder. I think it's only grazed it.
Well, get off your coat quickly. Let's have a look.
It's only a scratch. First, let's find out where it was fired from. I heard the thud of a bullet in the tree behind me. Yes, here we are. Give me a penknife, old fellow, will you?
There you are.
Thanks.
Do you suppose that shot was deliberate?
Well, I can't imagine someone mistaking me for a rabbit, Watson. By the way, there was a curious echo to that shot. I don't know whether you noticed it. Uh-huh. Here's the bullet. Now, let me see. I was standing there. A line from this bullet hole in the tree through the spot where I was standing would indicate that the shot was fired from that cluster of trees over there. Come on, Watson. Let's see what a search discloses.
Yes, I wish you'd let me look at that shoulder before you start galloping all over the countryside, Holmes. You're bleeding quite profusely.
Oh, plenty of time to look at it when we... Hello. Look over there.
A man and woman running towards us across the clearing.
Yes, and carrying guns.
Yes, it looks as if it was an accident after all.
Was anyone hurt?
Yes, sir. My friend was hit in the shoulder.
Oh, how dreadful. It's not a bad wound, is it?
Oh, it's only a scratch, madam, I hope.
But the blood on your coat.
Well, just How did this accident happen, sir?
Well, we were out rabbit shooting. I was teaching my wife to use a rifle.
I saw a rabbit scurry across the clearing. I raised the rifle and fired. It seemed to me, Geoffrey, that as I did so, you jolted my arm.
Yes, I'm afraid I did, Alice. I was going to fire too, but as I raised my rifle, I jolted your elbow and sent your shot wild. I can't tell you how sorry I am, sir. Here's my card. Of course, we'll take care of any expenses that may be entailed.
Well, the first thing to do is to find out how much damage has been done. You'd better take your coat off, old fella.
I don't think I can.
Oh, he's badly hurt.
No, it's just that...
The man's fainted.
Oh, this is dreadful. I have a horse and trap down the road.
Excellent. Give me a hand with him, will you? I must get him to a hospital as fast as possible. Holmes, you feeling any better?
Has the nurse gone?
Yes. She's bringing the house surgeon.
And the man and his wife?
They're down in the hospital waiting room.
Oh.
I found out their name. It's Markham.
Then we're alone.
Yes, old fella.
In that case, I can stop behaving as if I were at death's door.
Holmes, you mean that you shammed that collapse just now?
Yes, I did, Watson. Well, spare me a little pity, old chap. My shoulder's confoundedly painful, I assure you.
Well, I'm sure it is. But what made you pretend to faint?
I recognized this Mrs. Markham, and I think she recognized me. It's important she assume I'm out of action for a while.
Oh?
Mrs. Markham. Why? Well, Mrs. Markham is, in reality, the notorious Mrs. Dangerfield. You remember the Dangerfield case?
The Dangerfield? Great Scott, yes. She was tried for the murder of her husband by poisoning, wasn't she?
Yes, she was, old fellow. She was acquitted when the jury decided he was an habitual arsenic addict who happened to take an accidental overdose.
Well, didn't you have some connection with the case?
It was I who tracked down the sale of the arsenic she claimed to have bought for cosmetic purposes.
Well, if you ask me, that shot at you was no accident.
Oh, of course it wasn't. I'm certain that I was recognized. In any case, her record is a bad one. Prior to her husband's death, there was an episode in which her uncle was killed in a shooting accident on a grouse moor in Scotland. An uncle who left her a large fortune on his death.
And I suppose Mrs. Dangerfield was a member of the shooting party when the accident happened.
Yes, she was. And she's something of a femme fatale, Watson. I must plan my actions very cautiously. I'm up against a dangerous opponent.
Well, you'll have to stay in the hospital until your wound's being examined and dressed.
That's true, old fellow. And while the local staff are taking care of that, I want you to shadow the Markhams.
Of course I will, Holmes.
Stick close to them, old fellow. Make them believe that I'm going to be kept here for some days. Find out as much as you can, and then report to me.
Right, I'll do my best. It's awfully kind of you, Mrs. Markham, to insist on having me back to your house for lunch.
My dear Dr. Watson, after injuring the famous Mr. Holmes, it's the least I could do.
Of course it is.
Geoffrey, dear, will you bring us some sherry? It's Ada's day off, you know.
Very well, Alice. Is anyone else coming to lunch?
Only Dennis Romney.
Oh, Lord, that fellow seems to live here. Well, I'll go and get the sherry.
Sit down, won't you, Dr. Watson?
Oh, thank you, madam. Thank you.
You say that you think Mr. Holmes will be in the hospital for some days?
I'm afraid so. The wound wasn't serious. He lost quite a bit of blood.
Oh, I feel perfectly dreadful about it.
Well, you mustn't blame yourself too much, madam. It was an accident.
Yes, but I might so easily have killed him.
Well, you haven't, and that's all that matters. Did you say that Dennis Romney was coming to lunch? Is that the actor fellow from the Memorial Theater?
Yes. Have you seen him on the stage?
Yes. Several times. Holmes and I have been going to the festival regularly since we came down here.
A fine actor, isn't he? A shame they give him such poor parts.
Well, it was really good.
Imagine them letting that frightful Basil Grant play Hamlet last night, while Dennis only played Laertes. Dennis is 3 times a better actor.
I suppose he is.
He's coaching me in acting.
Oh, coaching you? Really?
Yes, he thinks that I may be able to get small parts here next season. I've always had a great urge to go on the stage, but no one's ever encouraged me before. Oh, here's Geoffrey.
This sherry's rather special, Doctor. Jerez de la Frontera. Only a few bottles left.
Oh, that's very nice of you, sir.
Oh, that must be Dennis. I'll go let him in.
We might as well have a drink. You'll find it'll help making this actor fella more tolerable.
I take it, Mr. Markham, that you're not an admirer of Mr. Dennis Romney's.
Can't bear him. He's always quoting Shakespeare and behaving generally as if he were another Irving. He's got Alice completely fooled. Here's a glass, Doctor.
Oh, thank you, sir, thank you.
Dennis, I want to introduce you to Dr. Watson.
How do you do, Mr. Romney?
How do you do, sir? Hello, Geoffrey.
Want a glass of sherry?
Thanks, that'd be very nice. Are you a disciple of the theater, Dr. Watson?
Well, hardly a disciple, sir, but I've been attending the festival during the last week. I enjoyed your performances immensely, if I may say so.
Oh, you may say so, Doctor. Here's your sherry, Dennis.
Oh, don't be crotchety, Geoffrey. And please remember that Dennis is our guest.
Oh, it's all right, Alice. I know that Geoffrey's bark is a good deal worse than his bite.
And what play are you appearing in tonight, Mr. Romney?
King Lear. I shall once again portray the thankless role of the King of France. Well, that incredibly bad actor, Basil Grant, tears a multitude of passions to tatters in his rendition of Lear. Oh, horrible, horrible, most horrible.
I thought his Hamlet was atrocious last night, Dennis.
Wasn't it? When he came to his final line, the rest is silence. It was as much as I could do to prevent cheering.
I felt rather the same way when you were killed in the duel, Dennis.
Oh, Geoffrey, you're being intolerably rude. Why don't you take Dr. Watson upstairs and show him your butterfly collection? Then at least you'll know what you're talking about.
Are you interested in butterflies, Doctor? I have quite a rare collection.
Oh, really? I'd like to see them very much.
Come on, then. I think we've just got time before lunch.
Try and bring yourself down with a few better manners, Geoffrey, dear.
I'm really quite an easygoing man, Doctor, but the arrogance of that fellow Romney infuriates me.
Well, I must say he does seem to have rather a good opinion of himself.
Don't put too much weight on that balcony rail. It's absolutely full of wormholes. Part of the attraction of an old house, my wife tells me. But I regard it as confoundedly dangerous. Yeah, and this is my little museum. In these cases, I think you'll find some of the finest specimens of Lepidoptera you've ever seen. It's my hobby, and I may say that, with the exception of the Natural History Museum, I doubt if you'll find a finer collection.
It must have taken you years to collect them.
It has. Many years, many disappointments, and a great deal of patience. Look at this fella. He's my prize specimen, a North American monarch.
North American monarch? Beautiful, beautiful.
Isn't he? And this is an admiral.
Well, of course I know him.
Rare. And this is a perfect bee-hawk moth.
Bee-hawk moth?
Here's an emperor. Ever see more exquisite markings?
Well, never. Tell me, Mr. Markham, when you captured a butterfly, how'd you kill it without marking it in any way?
With poison.
Oh? What poison?
Cyanide.
Not arsenic?
You heard me say cyanide, Doctor.
The only reason I mention it is that a friend of mine collected butterflies once, and I'm certain that he always used arsenic to kill them.
Why'd you keep talking of arsenic? You're trying to hint at something.
No, my dear fellow. I was just curious, that's all.
Yes. A trifle too curious, perhaps. There's the luncheon gong. Let's go downstairs again.
I see, old man. I didn't mean to offend you.
No, of course you didn't. But my nerves are a little on edge today. Must be that accident to your friend that's upset him. I really must get that balcony rail mended. Shh.
What is it, sir?
My wife. And young Romney. They're going into lunch. Listen.
Darling, why won't he understand?
Oh, but you expect Mr. Dennis. Jeffrey has no imagination. He's never understood me.
Well, Doctor, they say that listeners never hear good of themselves. You know, sometimes I wonder if my wife wouldn't like me out of the way. Let's go down to lunch, shall we?
And so, Holmes, that's the story up to now.
A very interesting one, too, Watson. So you think that Mrs. Markham is planning to kill our husband, eh?
Oh, it's obvious. She's in love with the actor fellow, Dennis Romney. Her husband's in the way, and if she doesn't want to use poison this time, there's a perfect setting for murder in that crumbling balustrade on the landing.
Mm-hmm.
One push when he wasn't looking, and it'd be the end of him. And no one could prove that she did it.
A charming household. And Mr. Markham became very evasive, you say, when you mentioned arsenic.
Yes. I said it deliberately, of course, to see how he'd react. If you ask me, he knows that his wife has arsenic at the house. He was trying to protect her.
You've exerted your charm sufficiently to arrange to see them again, I trust.
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I have. They're taking a picnic tea and going boating on the Avon this afternoon. They asked me to join them. Of course, I agreed. I just rushed back here to the hospital to report to you first.
You've done splendidly, Watson, splendidly.
Oh, thanks so much, Will. But I've been so busy telling you what I've found out that I haven't asked you about you. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm fine, old fellow, fine.
What did the house surgeon discover?
A very interesting fact. Look in the drawer beside my bed, will you?
Great Scott, it's a bullet.
A bullet that the house surgeon removed from my shoulder.
But we found a bullet in the tree also.
Precisely. Therefore, 2 bullets were fired.
But, good Lord, that means...
It means, old chap, that we have a dangerous task ahead of us. Not to solve a murder, but to prevent one.
We'll hear the rest of Dr. Watson's unusual story in just a moment. Meanwhile, I'd like to remind you that good cooking becomes wonderful cooking if you serve your good food with a Petri wine. If you like a red wine, say with meat or any meat dish, try Petri California Burgundy. If white wine's your favorite, then you'll love Petri California Sauterne. It's wonderful. But Burgundy or Sauterne, whichever you prefer, it's just bound to be good if you see the letters Petri on the bottle. Because Petri wine is always good wine. And now, Dr. Watson, what happened next? We left you at Sherlock Holmes' bedside in the hospital. Did the picnic with Mr. and Mrs. Markham prove an exciting one?
No, it was rather unpleasant, as a matter of fact. The 3 of them kept squabbling all the time, and just as we were coming home, something unforeseen occurred. Mr. Markham fell into the river.
Well, pardon the old question, Doctor, but did he fall or was he pushed?
It was hard for me to say. I had my back to him when he fell. Of course, we fished him out and rattled him back home in a trap as fast as we could. He changed his clothes at once, and as we sat round the fire a little later, I could see that he'd caught a chill. In fact, I recommended that he go to bed and stay there. Mrs. Markham agreed with me.
Jeffrey, dear, I do wish you'd follow Dr. Watson's advice and go to bed.
For the 5th time, Alice, I will not go to bed. I'm perfectly all right. No, it's no thanks to you and Dennis.
What do you mean by that remark, Jeffrey?
You know perfectly well what I mean. It wasn't an accident that I fell in the river just now. One of you 2 pushed me when I was struggling with the punt pole in the long reeds.
Jeffrey, you're talking rubbish.
Am I? You were in the boat, Dr. Watson. Didn't you see what happened?
No, I didn't, sir. My back was turned to you when you fell in.
Well, then we'll call it an accident. An accident that happened by a curious coincidence, just where the river is deepest and the reeds thickest.
Jeffrey, I don't like your tone. You can accuse me of anything you like, but when you start suggesting that
If
Alice...
you don't like the way I talk to my wife, I suggest that you don't come to my house. I'm going to get a scarf. I'm chilly.
Dr. Watson, I must apologize for my husband's behavior. I don't know what's come over him.
Oh, that's quite all right, Mrs. Markham. I quite understand.
Well, I wish I did. I don't mind him yelling at me, but he's being so abominably rude to you, Alice. The last couple of weeks, it's been getting worse than ever.
I know. Ever since we had that argument about the insurance policies, he's been unbearable.
Insurance?
Yes, Doctor. We took out quite large policies on each other's lives recently.
You didn't tell me that, Alice.
Well, it was his idea. And yet when the insurance man came here, you'd have thought I was forcing him into taking out the policy.
Insurance? Great Scott,
You what, Doctor?
Nothing, Mrs. Markham. Nothing at all.
Sounds as if you don't approve of insurance, sir.
Oh, it's not that, Romney. It's just that I...
Now, who can that be? I wasn't expecting anyone. Answer the door, Dennis, will you?
Yes. Sounds as if Jeffrey has already done so.
Alice, we have a visitor.
Holmes, you shouldn't be up.
Good evening, Mrs. Markham. Hello, Watson.
Well, I'm delighted to see you, Mr. Holmes. So I understood from your friend that you'd be in the hospital for several days.
The constitution of an ox and the obstinacy of a mule, 2 characteristics of mine, have combined in making possible an early departure from the hospital. How do you do, Mr. Romney? I think I've seen you at the theater. My name is Sherlock Holmes.
How do you do, sir?
You'll stay to supper, I hope.
If it's not inconvenient, Mrs. Markham.
Of course it isn't. I'll go in and arrange for it.
Upon my soul, Holmes, I'm glad to see you.
And are you, old fellow? Let's take a stroll on the terrace, shall we? It's rather warm inside this evening.
You can go out through the French windows.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Markham.
Holmes, are you quite sure that you're well enough to go walking about?
Of course I am. You must tell me, Watson, what the latest developments are. In the meantime, I myself have not been idle. Yes, Watson, I think our stage is set, and I have a feeling that I may contribute to a rather dramatic last act curtain.
A delightful meal, Mrs. Markham.
Oh, well, thank you, Doctor. Mr. Holmes, you're not eating very much.
My appetite is a trifle jaded. The mental fencing that we have indulged in during the meal has been somewhat disturbing.
I don't understand you.
Oh, come now, madam. I know that you were once Mrs. Dangerfield, and you know that I know it. Why keep up the pretense any longer?
Very well, Mr. Holmes. But we needn't converse in lowered voices. I'm sure that you've told Dr. Watson whatever there is to know, and perhaps more.
I admire your courage, madam.
Jeffrey, Dennis.
Yes, sir.
I want you to listen to this. Mr. Sherlock Holmes knows that I was once Mrs. Dangerfield. He's apparently under the impression that this is a dark secret of mine. Mr. Holmes, Jeffrey knew and loved me before I ever married Mr. Dangerfield.
Of course I did, Holmes.
He stood by me during the horrible trial after my first husband's death, and I told Dennis about the whole miserable business months ago. So I really don't see that you've uncovered any great secret.
Not yet, Mrs. Markham, but I have a feeling that it's only a matter of moments.
So you haven't got any secrets from Dennis either, eh?
There's no need to shout, Jeffrey.
And there's no need for Dennis to be in my house. Get out, Romney, and stay out. This business between you and Alice has gone far enough.
I'll go when Alice tells me to.
Well, if you won't go, then I'm not going to sit here. I'm going upstairs.
You're shaking like a leaf, sir. You've got a fever. Don't you think you'd better go to bed?
Mind your own business and leave me alone.
Mrs. Markham, I really think you should persuade your husband to go upstairs and lie down.
Don't worry, Mr. Holmes. I know how to handle him. I'll take him up. Put an arm around my shoulder, Jeffrey. Come along.
We should follow them, Holmes. They have to pass that crumbling banister on the landing. With him in that state, she might try to...
What are you suggesting, Doctor? Come and watch. Both of you. We can observe them both from the foot of the stairs here.
They're on the landing. She's on the outside. Look, 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 look. Markham stumbled against her. He's pushed her against the railings. Look out! Come on, the stairs.
Alice, are you all right?
Yes, but Jeffrey tried to push me through the railing.
That's a lie.
No, it isn't, sir. The three of us were watching you from below.
But the railing held. I don't understand.
I can explain that, Watson. This afternoon, while you were all at your picnic, I came here with a local carpenter. You had informed me, old fellow, that it was the maid's day off, and I took the liberty of reinforcing that decaying woodwork.
What the blazes do you think you've been up to, Holmes?
Preventing murder, sir, and finding the true solution to the Dangerfield case.
What do you mean, Mr. Holmes? The true solution?
Surely it's obvious to you, Mrs. Markham. You have told us that your present husband loved you before you married Mr. Dangerfield. It was he who accidentally killed your uncle so that you might inherit a fortune. It was he who accidentally gave your first husband an overdose of arsenic. Arsenic that he obtained for the purpose of destroying butterflies.
Yes. It was he who tried to send you to your death by pushing you through those railings. And all the time, Mrs. Markham, I thought that you were the potential murderer.
You fellows have got hold of the wrong end of the stick. All I've been trying to do is to conceal the fact that my wife was a murderess.
Jeffrey, how can you say that?
Markham, if you were...
Just a moment, Mr. Romney. I'm not through with him yet.
This talk is all very dramatic, Mr. Holmes, but I wonder how you're going to be able to prove it.
Dr. Watson, Mr. Romney, and I will testify to the attempt that you've just made on Mrs. Markham's life.
Yes, and what about the attempt on your life, Holmes? Obviously, it was Markham who fired at you in the woods.
But my wife has already admitted firing the shot.
True, sir. But 2 shots were fired. The one that your wife fired, we found in the tree. The one that you fired was extracted from my shoulder in the hospital.
Then the 2 shots were fired simultaneously.
You remember, Watson, that I commented at the time on a curious echo. Mrs. Markham told us that her arm was jolted as she pulled the trigger. That was when the other rifle was fired. Mr. Markham didn't want me on the scene when he staged his latest accident, and so he tried to kill me.
What kind of a devil have I been living with all these years?
I think I'm going to kill you, Markham.
Don't come near me. Keep him away from me.
Leave him to the law courts, Mr. Romney. British justice may be slow, as indeed it was in the Dangerfield case, but in the long run, it is sure. You'll find that out, Mr. Markham, on the gallows.
Well, tell me, Doctor, did Mr. Markham finally end on the gallows?
Yes, he did. And it might interest you to know that Mrs. Markham and Dennis Romney were married. A nice chap and a fine actor, that boy.
Maybe that's what I should have been. An actor. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is noble in the mind to suffer... Well, what's the matter, Doctor? Don't you like it?
The words are beautiful, but your delivery of them...
Not good, huh?
Not good, Mr. Bardo.
Okay. I'd rather talk about Petri wine anyway. Now, there's something to really talk about. Petri wine. A wine with generations of winemaking behind it. That's a fact, you know. The Petri family started making Petri wine generations ago, way back in the 1800s. So they've had the time to develop the art of winemaking, and they've been able to hand down that art from father to son, from father to son. Yes, the Petri family really knows how to turn luscious, sun-ripened California grapes into clear, fragrant, delicious wine. And those letters, P-E-T-R-I, on the bottle, are the personal assurance of the Petri family that every drop of Petri wine is good wine. It's got to be. Because don't forget, Petri took time to bring you good wine. Well, Dr. Watson, what new Sherlock Holmes story are you going to tell us next week?
Well, now, let me see. Next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you an exciting adventure Holmes and I had in North Africa. It begins at the headquarters of the Foreign Legion and ends with a strange death in the Cafe of 1,000 Sighs. I call the story Murder in the Casbah.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure is written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Adventure of Black Peter. Music is by Dean Fosler. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. This is Harry Bartell saying goodnight for the Petri family. This program originated in the Paramount Theater in Hollywood for an audience of Victory Bon Buyer. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Wow, the writing on the show, I think, is really hitting a strong peak. I think that when we were listening to the tail end of that 81-week marathon where they'd done 80 straight weeks of shows, the writing was kind of getting a little, okay, let's hurry up and think of something a little weaker. But this has really been coming on strong the last few weeks. These are just some fantastic plots. And this is the type of mystery story that a good mystery will be like, in terms of the traditional detective story, where I followed along with it and was able to solve it before it was announced on the show, but I felt smart in solving it. So good job there. I love the way they had Watson kind of take command here as the Doctor, which made a very interesting portrayal. Actually, that comment I got on iTunes kind of goes right into that. About writes, I love listening to old-time radio, and the background information provided by Adam only makes the experience better. Keep up the good work, Adam. On a different note, why does Nigel Bruce always get made fun of for being impossible to understand? I can't speak for anyone else, but I've never had any trouble understanding him. Well, the first time I actually saw Nigel Bruce in Sherlock Holmes film, I did have a what's he saying moment. The thing about Bruce's portrayal of Watson is it's a mumbler. And what Bruce seems to have invented, mastered, and been the sole perfectioner of is consistently intelligible mumbling. He should be harder to understand, but he's not. But you've got to really tune your ears in. You've got to kind of be used to him to be able to pick it up. And I don't know, maybe in the generations after Bob Dylan, we're a little bit more easy to pick up on mumbling. Additional comment. many listeners have asked Adam to do the shadow on this show. It would probably be inappropriate for this particular show. I would love to see Adam do a show specifically for the shadow, though. Maybe once his Dragnet podcast is finished. Well, thanks. The shadow is a show I would love to do. To be honest, I think the big thing, because I'd had the idea of doing a Shadow and Green Hornet podcast. The big thing that would kind of stand in my way is that Condé Nast, they're the ones who own the rights to the Shadow character. Unlike other companies, has tried to assume or presume or argue a right to any derivative of the Shadow, which wasn't part of U.S. copyright law, or kind of making up at this point. But you just don't have the money for a necessary lawsuit. And they've been doing some things early in the 2000s in terms of bothering people who had the Shadow radio shows up on their website. Now, at this point, there's actually 2, or maybe even 3 at this point, Shadow podcasts. So whether they've kind of backed off on trying to make that claim or not, I don't know. But that'd be kind of a hesitation. I'd almost need to be able to hire a copyright attorney to do that podcast. We'll see if we're able to make that work sometime down the road. I got a comment here from Kathleen, who sent a $20 donation, said, "Hi, Adam, this is long overdue. I just made our flight plans through Johnny Dollar Air, and we're heading towards Netflix. Hope you get a benefit." Well, thanks, Kathleen. And yes, the products we mentioned on the show are affiliate product. And so the only way that there's a benefit for us mentioning them is if it works for people who are listening to the program. So I always want to be careful we choose good merchants that provide something that could be of value to people. But thank you, Kathleen, for your donation. As we do get started, I want to remind you about JohnnyDollarAir.com. Kathleen was able to find a nice ticket deal, and there are 2 great ways to save on your entire vacation package. You can either search from published specials, or you can name your own price. At JohnnyDollarAir.com, which is Priceline, you have flexibility, and I just encourage you, as you make your summer travel plans, think of JohnnyDollarAir.com first. Now let's get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This one is called The Missing Masterpiece. It's also known as the Village Scene Matter, but we'll go with The Missing Masterpiece. Let's listen and then we'll come back.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as Johnny Dollar.
This is Doug Strand over at Bay State Bonding and Liability. I've got a big bonding case for you up in Boston.
Well, I just started to work on a case here in Hartford, also bonded. But okay, what's the picture?
Huh? How'd you know it was a picture?
How did I know what was a picture?
The one I'm calling about, an oil painting. Insured for $250,000. It's just been stolen.
Edmund O'Brien in another transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Bay State Bonding and Liability Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during investigation of a missing masterpiece. An investigation that took place in Boston, but turned out to be no tea party. Expense account, item 1, $8, mileage, Hartford to Beantown on the Charles. First stop, the Modern Art Gallery, a modest made-over brownstone in a modest business neighborhood.
Good afternoon.
Oh, hello. Is Mr. André Modern here?
He stepped out of the office for a few moments, but perhaps I could help. I'm his daughter.
Oh, I see. My name is Dollar. I'm from the insurance company. They sent me up to see what I could do for you on last night's theft.
Oh, that's such good news. Father has been beside himself. I know he'll be so relieved with you here.
Now, let's see. According to my worksheet, the painting was owned by Mr. Rideau, huh? Caesar Rideau?
Yes, he's an acquaintance of ours. He's not what you'd call the arty type by any means, but he's interested in good oils, and he has a very nice collection of marstones.
Was this village scene on loan to the gallery, or did Mr. Rideau want to sell it?
It was a loan. And that's what makes this so terrible for Father, and for me, too. He didn't want to accept the loan, and I talked him into it. You see, it's been very difficult for Father, and I thought that hanging an important picture in the gallery would bring people in. And it did for 3 days, but... Oh, Father, this is Mr. Dollar. He's here to help us. He was sent by the company that insured village scenes.
Bless you. I am so happy you are here.
I hope I can help, Mr. Modan.
The police, I know they do their work well, but they are so stern, unfriendly. To them, who is Pieter Bruegel the elder? And village scene, what is that? A stolen broom would annoy them so much.
Don't let their attitude fool you, Mr. Modan.
I'm sure they're doing everything they can, Father.
Yeah.
Mr. Modan, I understand that nothing else was touched.
What is anything next to Pieter Bruegel?
It was the only master in the gallery then, huh? I'd like to see where it was hanging.
Yeah, of course. This door. Teresa, you will wait?
Yes, dear, I'll be here.
Wait, Mr. Dollar. I feel I must explain the importance to me personally. Is that all right?
Sure, if you think it'll help, go right ahead.
Mr. Dollar, if we do not find the canvas, my gallery is gone. Everything, all my years are for nothing.
Why do you say that?
Because of that man, Rito. There is a hate between us. We have not expressed it, but it is there because... Well, you have met my daughter. You realize her great beauty. I have tried to protect her from this man. Now I am on my knees to him because of my carelessness.
Well, I wouldn't give up if I were you. We haven't even started on this case yet.
If we fail, I will take her away from Boston, start all over again. You come this way. In this gallery, you see my life, Mr. Dollar. Many of these canvases I bring with me from Salzburg when I leave, before the Anschluss. Here under that light, is where the village scene was hanging. I have hung nothing more yet.
Mm-hmm. Force this window, huh?
Yeah. You see, it looks on the back of the property. Do you see something?
No, I was just wondering what I'd do with the picture if I'd stolen it. Who could I sell it to? Who'd be willing to take a chance on displaying it?
Oh, I'm afraid there are a great many unscrupulous collectors in the world. There's much trade in stolen goods. And again, sometimes great masterpieces are held for ransom. For that reason, I have offered a reward of $5,000 myself.
Hey, that's pretty steep for you, isn't it? What about Rideau?
Rideau? What cares Rideau? To him, the canvas is nothing.
I wish he was right. Well, I think I've seen everything I want to see here. I'm going to check in with the police, Mr. Modan. I'll let you know when we turn something up.
What is it?
I'd like to talk with whoever's working on the Modan burglary, officer. Here's my ID.
Insurance, huh? What'd you say the beef was?
Maudan, Andrian Modan. Stolen painting. Call came in this morning.
Modan. Oh, yeah, here it is. That'd be... Hey. Estimated value of $250,000.
Yeah.
A picture?
Yeah. I'll bet you the artist was lucky if he got a month's rent out of it. The price has gone up $100,000 every century he's been dead.
One of them old-timers. You can have him. I don't understand him. Your man is Sergeant Hines, through that door, first office to the left. I'll buzz him. You're on the way.
Thanks.
Yeah, come on in. Oh, are you, Dollar? So you came up on the Modan thing, huh?
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to check in with you, find out how much I can do before you pull your rank.
Cut it out.
I run into some touchy policemen.
Not here. Well, I get my hat off that chair.
Sit down. Thanks. You get a free hand as far as I'm concerned, Dollar. Been out to see the old man yet? What then?
Yeah. Say, what kind of a make did you get at the gallery?
Nothing special. Typical window job. Heavy crowbar, no signs worth anything outside. The old boy ran a story in the papers about the picture coming to his gallery, so it's a little tough to narrow the suspects.
This guy who owns it, Caesarito, I've heard of him, haven't I?
Yeah, a lot of people have. He made his pile during the war. There was talk of black market, but nobody could pin anything on him. Then last year he was up before the Senate Investigation Committee. Something about buying contracts. Then he came home. What are you looking for, Dollar? Fraud charges?
Well, let's be realistic. They may be easier to find than the paintings. I've worked a few of these things. You know, the usual method is to gut the canvas out of the frame with a razor blade while it's still hanging. Rolled up, it's easy to conceal. On this job, it went frame and all, didn't it?
That's what I got. But I'm thinking the other way. I got details out looking for that frame.
I can dream, can I? It's faster my way. And I got tickets for South Pacific for 3 weeks after Easter. I did some spade work on Caesarito that afternoon before I went to his address. His current position was that of wholesale liquor distributor for a number of distillers that managed to keep their prices high and their quality low. His financial condition was healthy, but you don't have to be broke to be able to use $250,000. I found Rito's residence halfway up the shady side of Beacon Hill. He hadn't made the top, but he was climbing. There was a coat of arms on the wrought iron gate and a butler, complete with cummerbund, inside the front entrance. But the class stopped there.
Charles, if that's that clown from the dress shop, give him to me. When I get through with him, you can shovel him out.
It's a gentleman to see Mr. Rito, madam.
Oh. Go finish the silver. I'll talk to him.
Yes, madam.
Hello, my name is Dollar.
That's very clever, but it doesn't help. Could you be the sick friend he's been sitting up with lately?
The insurance company told him I was coming up when he reported the theft of his painting.
Ah, Rito's folly, huh?
You Mrs. Rito?
Not yet. I'm holding out to be a June bride. Come on in the bar, Mr. Dollar. You and me are interested in the same situation. My name is Lily Swanson. I don't know anything about art, but I got a few ideas about who's supposed to be modeling as a sap. You want a drink?
No, thanks. Don't let me stop you.
I had one here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Well, did you meet the museum piece?
You mean Teresa Modern? Yeah, I met her.
If you want to make a quick buck, take out a policy on her life. To me, she's poison.
Oh, that's hard to believe.
What do you mean by that?
I was just looking at you. You don't have anything to worry about.
Haven't you heard sometimes beauty is only skin deep? I want to tell you about Caesarito. He's a climber. I've been good enough for him for a long time, but now he wants refinement. Doing specialties in burlesque houses, that's one thing you don't develop.
Maybe I'd better have that drink.
Yeah, help yourself. Don't get me wrong. I'm not building up to a sob story. It's just like him waking up one morning with a big interest in art and money enough to carry it off. The right people were impressed. Now he wants that dame and he's willing to gamble a few $100,000 if it'll help. That's why he put that picture in that fire trap.
Where do you think it is now?
How should I know? The point is he doesn't care where it is. He's protected.
Another point is that I'm getting paid to care a lot where it is.
Well, I can't help you there. But he's got to be taught that he can't walk over people without getting hurt himself.
I'm afraid I can't help you there.
Then that dame, Teresa. If you think she's worth it, tell her. He's not good enough for her. She'll get hurt. He's got no more feeling for her than he has for a new suit. He'll wear her for a while. When he gets bored, he'll go shopping for a new pattern. If she's a nice kid, she ought to be told.
That's quite a pitch, Lily.
Caesar.
I don't mind strangers hearing things like that, but the servants might have been listening. Discipline, you know.
I don't care. Wait till I write my memoirs. You're one of the rottenest mashers I've ever known, and I've known a few.
Go fix your face.
Sure. On the way, I might as well fix yours.
I didn't hear enough of it to find out who you are.
Name's Dollar, insurance company.
Oh, yeah. Tell me, you made any progress?
Yeah, general progress. I've learned that Bay State Bonding and Liability hired an investigator on the wrong end of this case.
They should have looked you over before they issued the policy.
With any kind of big company, you can depend on about 90% of that all the time. Rush things when the money's coming in, then be careful when it's too late. Tell me, what about my picture?
Well, I don't think an eyes-honest thief has it.
Why do you say that?
Number of reasons. It's too hot to steal the way it was stolen.
Well, what do you think happened?
You're too big to be accused on a hunch. Wait till I get some facts. Then I'll talk to you about it. Right now, I want to talk about a clause in your policy that says you shouldn't move the insured property without first notifying the company.
Yeah, that's right. Big companies again. They're so tied up with procedures and rules, they'd get themselves hamstrung if they tried to build a case on them. I'll find you some words in that thing that'll nullify that clause. Tell me, you think I can't?
I was afraid you'd say that. You know, you've got a good head, Mr. Rideau.
Yeah. Yeah, they say nothing of being a rotten masher.
I don't see any reason to waste any more of each other's time, do you?
You stay for a drink?
Oh, no. No, thanks. I very seldom drink on the job. I parked my car in an alley around the corner and then went back. I found a spot opposite the Rideau place where I wouldn't be obvious and settled down to wait for him to leave. I hoped I'd planted enough doubt in his mind to make him move if he was implicated. Whatever I'd planted grew slowly because I waited a long, cold time. Night fell and I drove closer to the house. Finally, the door opened and Rideau moved a blue-black sedan out of his garage. By the time I got my car started, a coupe pulled out of the driveway. In it, I spotted the blonde head of the lady scorned, Lily Swanson. I followed her. After a few blocks, it was evident that her destination was the Modern Gallery. I pulled up at the rear of the building. I could see a dim light burning on the ground floor. I started toward a window. But before I got to it, it happened at another one. It was a woman's scream. But when I finally got inside, the only person there was Caesar Rideau. He was still alive, the stupidity of shock on his face as he leaned against the wall under a light that had once shown up the best features of Pieta Bruegel's village scene.
In just a moment, we will return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. But first, Wednesday nights on CBS bring you Groucho Marx, Bing Crosby, and Burns and Allen. An hour and a half of radio's top entertainment for the whole family. Bing Crosby, Burns and Allen, and Groucho Marx are heard on most of these same CBS stations. So make this wonderful Wednesday a steady date with CBS. And now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
So there I was. I'd been sent to Boston to find the missing village scene and found myself at the scene of attempted murder. Caesar Rideau had taken 2 slugs, one in his left shoulder and a grazing one on his right forearm. I phoned for police and ambulance, then did what I could to make Rideau comfortable. I turned up the thermostat, covered him with my coat.
Who did it, Dollar?
That's the question I was going to ask you. Don't you know?
Must have been outside.
That's right, through the open window there. Why'd you come down here?
I forgot my hat.
Look, you're in no shape to try being clever. You met Teresa.
Let me alone.
I want to know how your stolen painting figures into this.
Leave me alone. I met Teresa. This is where we meet.
What about the painting?
It was stolen. I don't feel good, Dollar. I don't feel good at all. I don't want to talk. I feel like I'm going to pass out.
And he did. After the ambulance took him away, I made a statement to the police that was not false, but lacked enough truth to save a few people from being dragged in for questioning. I headed for the blonde member of that group.
Oh, it's you. What do you want?
want?
Just a few words.
I used up all I had earlier today.
Yeah, but we got new things to talk about.
Such
now.
as?
Well, the police might want more from me on that art gallery shooting.
All right. Is he dead?
No.
Did you know I was there, or were you just guessing?
I wasn't guessing. I followed you from here.
Oh, I suppose that earns you a drink. Come on.
Thanks.
Up yourself. You said the police were there.
Yeah, I had to call them. I didn't mention your being there.
Why not?
Because I wanted to get to you before they hold you in.
I didn't shoot him. I followed him there, but I didn't shoot him.
Somebody did. There were 2 women there and me, and I didn't do it. Why did you follow him?
Because I heard him phone that Teresa and tell her to meet him. I wanted to find out what was going on, but I didn't. I changed my mind. I didn't even stop. I was afraid I might do something crazy if I saw them together.
I'd like to believe you.
It's the truth.
Maybe. I hope it is, because I'd like to link the shooting up with the painting. If I can, you're going to be in bad trouble.
You're pretty smart, aren't you?
Things just worked out this way.
You think Caesar did something with that painting for the insurance money, and you want me to help you prove it to save my own skin?
No, gorgeous, no. To save the company, $250,000.
You'll never die of softening of the heart, will you? All right, what comes first?
I want to hear everything you know about this deal. And while you're telling me, I want you to help me go through this house from cupola to basement. This time I believed her story, but there still wasn't anything in it to help me. The search of the house paid off the same way. No painting, no leads, nothing. At 11 p.m. I left, looked up the Modan home address, and bearded the other point of the triangle in her den.
It's terribly late, Mr. Dolly. It's after 11.
Your father here?
He's upstairs in his studio. Wouldn't tomorrow morning be better?
Maybe for you, but not for me. I don't want to give you all that time to get your story straight.
Story straight?
Why'd you meet Rito at the gallery tonight?
Don't say that's any of your affair. A girl has a right to meet her fiancé when and where she wishes.
Fiancé?
Yes. They're to be married as soon as possible.
You were with him when he was shot. Why did you leave him?
Because I was terrified. Caesar told me to go. He thought she was trying to kill me.
Did he say it was Lily, or is this your idea?
Of course it was she. Who else would it be? Mr. Dollar, this situation is unpleasant enough without these insinuations from you that I don't even understand. It means nothing to you. It is a matter for the police. You have no right to meddle in our lives. You are sent here to look for village scenes.
That's what I'm doing. Why are you marrying that self-styled dictator?
Because I love him.
Well, that won't stay down. Nobody but Caesar Rito could love Caesar Rito.
Right. It's because I'm tired of being a poor man's daughter. I want to get away. I finally decided what I want out of marriage. What he can give me. He's going to be a big man, a wealthy one. And I'm going to be his wife.
Teresa?
I'm sorry you heard that, Mr. Modan.
Oh, Teresa.
Stay out of this, Father. I've made up my mind. Go to bed.
Go to bed with those words in my ear. My daughter, what has happened? What has that man done to you?
Be quiet, Father.
Teresa, wait. We will not be poor always.
Go. Don't talk to me.
How can this be? Suddenly, she is no longer Teresa.
I didn't sleep too well that night. An all-night car line that ran past my hotel didn't help. Neither did the questions that were running around in my head. But what grew in importance was the realization that the lives of everyone who had come in contact with village scenes had been emotionally upset since I'd arrived in Boston. That is all but Caesar Rito, who'd only been shot. My half-conscious musings didn't move me forward any, but the phone call that awakened me did. Oh. Yeah, hello.
Dollar?
Yeah, who is it?
Sergeant Hines, burglary.
Oh, how are you, Sergeant? What's new?
That fraud case you were dreaming about, it won't work.
Hey, come on. It's too early for that kind of stuff.
Sorry. Couldn't resist it. The picture's been returned.
What?
The old man Mordan didn't know where to reach you. He called us. It was returned for the reward he posted.
Have you seen it?
No, but if he's not worried, I'm not. I've got a lot of other burglaries.
Okay. Thanks for calling. I'll go right out there. It sounded good until I got halfway to the gallery. Then things began to pester me. A, The painting had been stolen in the frame. B, Mordan hadn't mentioned being an artist, yet he'd been working in his studio the night before. C, Caesar Rideau knew nothing about art, collected as an affectation. And D, Mordan had been the only one to post a reward, $5,000, offered by a poor man. Then it hit me. He knew he wouldn't have to pay it. He posted the reward to divert suspicion. My hunch was that he had put the picture on ice himself. When I got to Mordan's gallery, the copy Mordan had made of Village Scene was there. But also, hanging next to it, was the original.
You are surprised, Mr. Dollar.
Yeah, doubly, Mr. Mordan.
My copy is quite excellent. Do you agree?
Well, I'm not an expert, Mordan.
It is very good, I think. I am pleased with it. The most important work of my career. A work of love for Teresa.
Yeah, I understand.
She was an ambitious girl, always. Oh, that is not a fault. She is like her mother, born for good things. I could not give them to her. Caesar Rideau could. He's soon coming for his canvas.
Well, no crime has been committed, except theoretically. You copied the original, meant to sell it, but you didn't. Maybe Rideau won't press charges.
Perhaps not. When he came the first time into our life, I knew. The way he looked at her, I knew he wanted to take her away from me. Then the gifts, more expensive, each one money to buy. You should understand, Mr. Dollar. This copy is a work of hate, too.
You don't have to tell me these things. Why don't we wait till he gets here and see what he's going to do?
Yeah, we wait. But I must say these things that are in my heart. To attempt a copy was wrong, and it was not wrong. To Riddle Bruegel's Village Scene was nothing. He was blind. I hoped with the money I could hold Teresa. But I waited too long. I was too late. He's taken her from me with his money.
Come on, Miss Mordan. I think you'd better sit down.
No, listen. Listen, he has come. I must be strong. Show him he is no bigger than I.
Hello, Mordan. Dollar.
Well.
Except for a little blood, everything turned out just like it should.
The insurance company will be happy.
Where is my daughter?
Why, she's in the car. She thought it would be better if she didn't come in.
Yeah, perhaps she is right.
Oh, come on, Pop. I'll take good care of her. Now, come on, you just give me my picture and we can forget. Hey, wait a minute. What's this? There's two of them.
Yeah, two of them.
What's the matter with you, Mordan?
What is the matter? In all my life, there has been no shame until now. There, you see on the wall. Deceit. For that, I am ashamed.
We can still forget it.
And in your car, waiting for you, my daughter. For her, I feel the greatest shame. I give her my blessings.
Mordan.
Hey, no!
My blessings.
Drop the gun to the floor. Go over to that chair and sit down.
I could do nothing else. Now, it is finished.
Mr. Dollar.
Your father killed him. He thought he was doing it for you.
No, there was no reason.
Teresa, come on, pull yourself together.
Even knew my father had made a copy and that he was going to sell the original. But he didn't care. As long as I married him, he wouldn't have done anything to Father. And now Caesar's dead. My father is a murderer.
There wasn't much left for me to do in Boston. I made the statement that caused Andre Mordan to be booked for murder, the father who didn't know when to stop protecting his daughter. I paid a farewell visit to Teresa, the daughter who had put her father where he was by trying to help him. And I mentioned to Sergeant Hines that if he cared, it had to be Lily Swanson who had thrown those wild shots into Rideau at the gallery. Expense account item 2, $8. Return trip to Hartford. Expense account total, $68.30. And I want to go on record right now as saying that the next time anybody sends me out after a masterpiece, my expense account is going to be a masterpiece of overstatement. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and was written by Gil Dowd and Paul Dudley, with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can currently be seen starring in the Harry M. Popkin United Artists production, D.O.A. Featured in our cast were Charles McGraw, Walter Burke, Lillian Bayef, Robert Griffin, James Nusser, Joan Banks, and Tyler McVeigh. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. Join us again next week when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another transcribed adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
There's a man with a little black bag turns up on most of these CBS stations every Wednesday night. And out of it comes some of the most light-hearted and most moving stories on the air. The man? Why, it's Dr. Christian, of course. And tomorrow night's the night for another of his famous visits. Be sure to hear Dr. Christian starring Jean Hirschholt as the beloved small-town physician every Wednesday night. Now stay tuned for the adventures of Philip Marlowe, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where Wednesday night is Bing Crosby night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. There are a lot of episodes of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, that even from these early times that are referred to as matters in a lot of logs, and I've even called some of them matters. But under Edmund O'Brien, they didn't start using matters for the title until sometime in April, it looks like, with the Pearl Carassa matter. So we'll just go with what's the actual title. According to John Abbott, who I've mentioned before, wrote the Who is Johnny Dollar matter, actually took a look at the scraps. Well, we have an email from Chris who says, I still love listening to your show as I work and travel. Right now I'm listening to Johnny Dollar as my girlfriend drives to Omaha, Nebraska from Indianola, Iowa. Your hard work keeps me sane as I slave away and helps me relax due to the fear of being in a car. Thank you for what you do. I'll make sure to vote for you on Podcast Alley this month, and I hope to be able to leave a tip after the 15th payday. He said, I'm not sure how much time it takes you to create this podcast on a daily basis, but please keep up the good work. Well, thanks a lot, Chris. I've been asked the question about time, and I've reached the conclusion that I don't really know. Listening to the shows itself just takes, 2.5 hours, and recording it and then uploading. And even beyond that, there's research, and then there's parts of it that could be considered related to the show, where I'm looking up and investigating detective shows and possible shows for video theater. But then that could also be just considered goofing off, I guess. So it's a good thing I'm not being paid by the hour, or the accounting department would have some trouble. So would I. Follow the Johnny Dollar school of expense accounts. A few more comments. A very good show and commentary. Well, thank you. And another one on Podcast Alley. Enjoy listening to your podcast. There's been a great improvement in your sound quality. Well, thank Andrew Rhines for that at otrwesterns.com. You're doing a great job bringing these programs back to the listening audience. Enjoy your information given and about the programs also. From across the country, a listener in Pennsylvania. All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your comments. And we got a negative review on iTunes. It was a 3-star review, but it was one of those 3-star reviews that brought out everything the person thought negative about the show. The only thing that's kind of new, which I'll read verbatim, is this: the opening music is horrible. Well, I can appreciate the opinion. This one is actually old-time radio music from Pat Novak for Hire, a little bit that's being used at the start of the show. So the rest of it I'm not going to read, just because I think just the very negative reviews aren't entertaining, or kind of in the spirit of what we're wanting to do here. Constructive criticism always open to read. But I will answer 2 kind of general points, and I know we have a lot of people who join in and listen who haven't been following the show for years. Why do we, and so just 2 questions, I guess, for the record. Why do we read comments from places like Podcast Alley or iTunes? The answer is to connect and to build a level of community with the people who are listening. I think that's the key to having a great show, and we've had a lot of success at doing that, and we'll continue to do that. And why do we ask people to support the show on Podcast Alley? Because we want to grow the audience and have more people listening. And the better we can do on Podcast Alley, the more chance we have of people being able to discover us. On the Dragnet show, last week, the show made it into the top 10 on Podcast Alley, which landed it a place right on the homepage of podcastalley.com, which is a very nice piece of online real estate. So, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Got a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. You can follow the show on Twitter at Radio Detectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.